been doing a darn good job of, but to end people's homelessness needs to be a lot softer and a lot more subtle, and not overstep in that way. And then when I discovered this concept of the COC, I said that is exactly what is the fit for Summit, and that is what I think a role of our government in this unique city, unlike any other, because there is no obligation to join. You can leave anytime you want. There is absolutely no obligation. And it seemed to me like really the way that we could do our part, because right now the burden of this problem, and like it or not, we do have a problem with homelessness. It's across the country. It's in New Jersey, and it's also in Summit. It's being done by people, the funding of generous residents towards nonprofits, faith-based groups, and I know we have at least one or two professional organizations in town. So anyhow, who do this, and we need this is our role. That was the answer to my question, was that this is a no obligation way that our government can help. Also, so in the beginning, Rich, your name is being thrown around like all over today, but yes, one of the things we did is have coffee. And I said to Rich, I'm like, I am now a council person, because we knew each other, because I had volunteered and done things with Bridges, and I said, I'm now in council, what can my role be in? And it's a long-winded way of making that point with the COC. But my thoughts on the COC is that it is one of the centralized planning entities that would give us a line of sight into things we could do that could be beneficial to our community, and expose us to opportunities we might decide to opt into and partake in. We are not, anything we decide to do must return here and be discussed in this forum and voted upon with the input of the community. We cannot apply for any grant, whether it's $200 or not, on behalf of the city, unless it is a resolution on the agenda that we must vet and discuss and debate, and all of you have a chance to participate in. The only thing to come from our refusal to participate is ignorance. Simple participation, pending any other choices, can only serve to educate. I'm not committing us to anything. I understand the many thoughtful points that have been made in the past, but I favor being engaged and being educated. I just want to make one more comment. Everything okay? Mm-hmm. Good. One more comment. Just Lisa Allen reminded me of a meeting, a really great meeting that I had yesterday with some residents, and Lisa, thank you for including me in that. And just to remind everyone that some people can be given the same set of facts and the same robust, amount of information that they find on their own, they hear, whatever. But the point is that people can be given the same facts and arrive at a different conclusion, and it doesn't make someone evil, and it doesn't make someone, that they want to ruin the city. And that is, I think, what happens in a sense, that same facts, and we arrived at different conclusions, but there was so much agreement in that meeting, I found. So thank you. I think that's all I can think of that I want to say now, but there may be more later. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. So we've gone around the horn up here once, so let's allow for the community.
I absolutely will, Council President. I just want to make sure that we do have the opportunity to speak again, because there are additional things that came up that I just want to make sure that we're not being told we have to be quiet.
Yes, yeah. I think there's a lot of people here, though, who look like they might want to talk. So let's do that, and then we'll circle back to council members once the community has a chance. Does that sound good?
It does.
Okay, thank you. So we'll open it up to members of the public at this point. Come on up.
Reverend Vernon Williams. I'm the president of the Summit Interfaith Council. To members of the Common Council, President Vartan, Mayor Radis, I stand here on behalf of the Summit Interfaith Council, and we are submitting this letter of the in support of the City of Summit becoming a member of the Union County Comprehensive Emergency Assistance System Continuum of Care, a standing subcommittee of the Human Services Advisory Council. Comprised of nonprofit and municipal entities, the Union County Continuum of Care's goal is to promote community-wide commitment to ending homelessness by focusing on the areas of health, housing, public assistance, and social services. As a member of the Continuum Care Standing Subcommittee, our city would benefit immensely from access to the network of information and support programs, as well as federal, state, and county funding aimed at ending homelessness. Membership would not require any mandatory municipal action nor increase the levy for county services. Rather, the benefit to our city and residents would be the opportunity to consider enrollment in programs and funding related to housing and homelessness prevention, mental health and wellness, addiction prevention and treatment, and support for the disabled and elderly. This is not an insignificant benefit, considering that in 2019, Union County was awarded $4+ million from the Federal Continuum of Care, and in 2020 received over $5 million. As members of the Summit community and as the Council of Interfaith Leaders, we take seriously our duty to ensure the welfare of our residents. As Dr. Martin Luther King stated, we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one indirectly, directly affects all indirectly. Therefore, we earnestly ask for your affirmative action on this request. Furthermore, to table this is cruel. Cruel in the fact that if you're going to wait to provide needed resources and needed help to those who are homeless now, it's just simply cruel. And so therefore, why not join something? I hear you talking about just going to a meeting, but it is going to a meeting that can provide you possible access to funding that is there now. And if you're not able to get the funding, at least you made the effort. You can't do that by just simply joining the meeting. And so therefore, it would be cruel to ask those who are homeless now to wait. Thank you.
Thank you. Reverend, if you can just email or drop off your statement up here, that would be great. Thank you.
Marcus McNamara, 53 Morris Avenue. I guess my question is, do any of you, have you personally talked to any of these homeless people in Summit? I have. I don't know if anybody, I think sometimes when there's a problem, the most simple solution is overlooked sometimes. You could go talk to somebody and find out that they just need a job. What will this CO, whatever it is, how is addiction addressed in this? When that guy, the Callahan or whatever his name was, when he came, I didn't hear him mention any single word. I looked on the packet. I didn't see anything about addiction. What's the word I'm looking for? I am 18 years in recovery.
Yeah, Marcus.
I know better than most on how to handle an addict or an alcoholic. An addict and an alcoholic will take everything they can take. I know from personal experience. I don't see how throwing money at a problem is going to fix it. If you build a house, a foundation on sand, it's going to collapse again. The way I see it, these people need help to get sober. Then you work. You know, when I was in the Marine Corps, and you were an EMT, you start the breathing, stop the bleeding. If you jump those steps, you're screwed. You know, these people are not bad people who need to get good. They're not weak people who need to get strong. They're sick people who need help. There's a way. I mean, the way our country treats addiction and mental illness, I think it was Ronald Reagan who shut down all those places. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican, I'm independent. I just want the right thing to be done here, and, you know, prior planning prevents piss poor performance. You know, just dot your I's, cross your T's, but you can't fix a problem if you don't get to the root cause. I mean, a lot of you are doctors and lawyers and stuff. I paint houses. I'm an expert at two things, painting houses and recovery. I know how it works. I did it wrong for very, very long. I know two of the guys who were out there personally. One guy was in recovery with me. I said, Ed, what are you doing back here? He went to Florida. He went to rehab, he got out, he had dinner at Roots, and went down to Newark, he copped drugs, and I said, why are you here? He said, nobody gives me a problem, I can get on a bus and drive down to Newark, and I'm gonna sleep here, nobody bothers me. Sometimes the solution can be part of the problem, and I think that all the help that these people give to these people is fantastic, but from my experience, you gotta take off the kid gloves sometimes. And you know, I don't know what that thing is about Jesus when you give a man a fish for a day, feed him for a day, teach him how to fish, he doesn't go hungry for something like that. I'm not religious. But, you know, there's so many things that could be done, and I think Gil Orrin had spoken before. What have we done? What have we done as a community, honestly? Who has gone up there, talked to these people, what's your problem, how can we help you, instead of bringing in, and I'm saying, I don't know, this might be the greatest freaking program ever, I don't know. But if addiction is not addressed, you can throw all the money at it in the world and the problem will not be fixed. That's all I got.
Thank you. Next up, come on.
Carlos Maecha, 23 Stockton Road. Council statements come across as conflicting to me. On the one hand, you say joining the COC commits Summit to nothing, no obligation. On the other hand, you're saying it's needed to end homelessness. The motion seems to me like a Trojan horse into a slippery slope. If it weren't so, Council would be open to providing citizens with transparency on what this path leads to, its implications and true goals, rather than downplaying it in order to get it passed quickly. There are various homelessness services and faith-based organizations in Summit, God bless them, that have been sheltering homeless individuals. The number of homeless people in Summit has increased significantly, and many of the people who use these services in Summit are likely not from here. While helping the homeless is a worthy cause, a major concern with the COC is that eventually it will lead to increasing the supply of services and shelter in Summit that will only incentivize the importation of more homeless into Summit. The Council needs to provide more information to its citizens before moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Radist, Mayor Yang in absentia, Council President Vartan, and members of Common Council like
Good
Jim
evening.
Bennett.
And happy birthday.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's not.
Well, that was a couple of days ago.
That's okay.
Bennett, 38 Fairview Avenue. When I was a law clerk at my father's firm, my father told me that unnecessary and systematic maintenance of information and statistics is an activity that taxes administrative resources. A decision to proceed with this kind of activity requires balancing cost and benefit. One such undertaking here might be the Homeless Management Information System, which I've heard called by its acronym HIMARS. HIMARS, according to the HUD Exchange site, is a local information technology system used to collect client-level data and data on the provision of housing and services to homeless individuals and families and persons at risk of homelessness. Each continuum of care, or COC unit, that Summit is voting on joining tonight is responsible for selecting the HIMARS software that complies with HUD's data collection, management, and reporting standards. As such, HIMAS is suited to the social service agencies and COCs, not necessarily to a municipality like Summit. Maybe I'm misunderstanding the function of it, but by wading further into the water with HIMAS, Summit could find itself not only entangled in activity that may not be its responsibility, Summit could be taking on a role that properly belongs to the county. Getting in becomes easier than getting out, and taking on unnecessary work is a hallmark of inefficiency. So my question tonight, if you should vote to join the COC, is that if you plan on creating some kind of additional function in the municipal government in order to accommodate HIMAS. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll email a copy.
Thank you.
Is there an answer?
I'm sorry.
He asked a question. Do you have an answer?
Well, I mean,
This is public comment
yeah,
period.
this is the public, so I wanna make sure that we can get through the questions, and then I think we'll probably circle back around on that, but, I mean, the short answer would be no. We're not, I don't think anybody's interested in adding municipal functions to manage something. I think what we heard from a lot of different people is that we're looking to provide connections between the organizations that are doing this work really well and the organizations in Summit. And I think that's the baseline of the, we can get into that more, but, yeah. Next up.
Steve Sartorius, 37 Tulip Street. I think like most people here, I first learned about the Union County COC and Summit's intention to join from the presentation by Dr. Callahan at the March 21st council meeting. That was the first I'd heard about it. One of the main reasons given by Dr. Callahan and council members for joining the COC was that it will allow Summit to receive funding to address homelessness from both the federal government and the state of New Jersey. So this weekend, to educate myself, I looked at the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development, the HUD website, and saw that indeed HUD was giving away a lot of money, primarily for the provision of shelter for low-income and homeless people. Interestingly though, HUD has never given a COC grant to any Union County municipality. There are 4 Union County cities that are a member of COC: Elizabeth, Plainfield, Linden, Rahway, and then tonight after you vote, Summit. The only time HUD has made any COC grants in Union County was back in 2013, and those grants were to housing agencies and homelessness service providers. If Summit were to somehow become the first Union County city to receive a HUD COC grant, what would you use that money for? Thank you.
Thank you. Next up.
Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, Council, I'm Avi Friedman, F-R-I-E-D-M-A-N. I live at 34 Hartley Road. I'm also the rabbi of Congregation Or Shalom and a past president of the Summit Interfaith Council. And I guess I have a few things to say. First of all, if somehow Summit has the reputation of being a kind, generous, charitable place, then personally, I'm proud to live in such a community, though I don't think that that is necessarily why our homeless numbers have spiked in the last couple of years. I think it has spiked because homelessness has spiked. It seems to me that the COC has a number of different functions, and we can decide which of those we want to partake in. But I think if we are strategic about joining the COC, we are a voice at the table about how money is spent in our county. And if we are strategic about how that money is spent, it will ultimately lead to an easing of our burden, right? Right now, we have a burden that, is a challenge. Right? Nobody likes seeing the homeless folks living in our train station for a number of reasons, both aesthetic and moral. No one should live like that. and it's unpleasant. It's not what the train station is for. So why would we not want to be a part of the county-wide conversation about how to ease homelessness? And hopefully, it will have an impact on our community. So as we've heard, there is no financial commitment that we need to make. All it means is we have a voice at the table. Why would we not want to have that voice and move this ball forward to our benefit and also for the benefit of the homeless who live among us? Thank you.
Thank you.
Vicki Letterman, 52 Clark Street. 2 weeks ago, when we first heard about joining the COC, you said you've been working on this since November. Yet you haven't answered the most basic questions posed to you. Why? Gil Oren gave you a list of 29 questions, none of which have been answered. I posed similar ones online, like, is the increase in the homeless population in Summit residents who lost their housing here in Summit, or are they from other towns coming here for the services? Because those are two very different problems. Greg reached out to me, but refused to answer any of them in writing or on the record, and kept directing me to the 160-page packet, which says absolutely nothing about Summit's situation. Surely, if you've been researching this since November, you've asked these same incredibly basic questions and know the answers. So why not just answer us? We're all aware of how the problem is becoming worse and more aggressive in Summit. Yesterday, as has been stated, a few people were talking to Jamie about Bergen County's model, which you haven't even mentioned, by Julia Orlando, which is the first in the country to end chronic homelessness. You haven't even mentioned it. Ironically, during our discussion, an out-of-towner homeless man, not from Summit, who clearly had mental problems and was drunk, came in. After he knocked over a table and was repeatedly disruptive, the management called the police to remove him. Later, he was seen lying on a bench in the train station. Summit does not have the mental health services that he clearly needs. Union County Social Services does. You've seen at least 2 presentations on solutions to homelessness. One, presented by Julia Orlando from Bergen County, was in a private for council only, while the other, by Michael Callahan, who wants to make Summit the Western County coordinated entry point, was a public presentation. Why not have Ms. Orlando's presentation be public as well? Her solution works. There are no more homeless people in Bergen County. Is that what we're trying to do or not? I don't really care about I don't think you really care about ending homelessness, because if you did, you would be pushing for this successful model. Instead, you're hell-bent on voting tonight to join the COC so you can have a seat at the table, which isn't going to do anything to solve Summit's homeless problem. It's probably to make contacts to further political ambitions. The lying, and I'm sorry for my, the mood here has been positive and I wanted to keep it that way, but I just can't. The lying, deceitfulness, exclusion, disrespect for residents and certain council members, and the politicizing of non-political things by this council have broken the public's trust. From council being about to sign a lease with Blackstone for Subdistrict 2 while telling us only Subdistrict 3 is on the table. How many people know about that one? To the Beth Little zooming and resignation debacle, to not even owning a strip of land that Broad Street West would be built on, and my personal favorite of a little over 250 feet. There is no rush for this vote when people have questions and you can't or won't even answer them. You want to end homelessness. So do I. Then follow a method that's proven to work. Now, if you're going to Union County to convince them to do or persuade them to look more carefully at the Bergen County one, I would support that. But this pervasive mismanagement and violation of trust has managed to make me do something that no one else has ever been able to make me do. And that is vote Republican for the first time in my life. And I mean, I just hope you hear what people are saying here. We need to be on the same page about this, about Broad Street West. You are the ones making this adversarial. I don't know why. You've got expertise in this room, in this town, people who want to help, people who know way more than you do, and you don't invite them to the table. So let's get on the same page and fix this mess.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Reverend Harriet.
Reverend.
Dennison Harriel, 34-year resident of this great city and 34 years as pastor of Wallace Chapel, Amy Zion Church in Summit, former past president of the Summit Interfaith Council. Been around a long time. And first let me begin by saying that I'm a little shaken because two council members recognize the spirituality that is needed. Councilwoman Allen recognized me, and then Councilwoman Harrison said spirituality. So it's not often that, you know, church comes into political situations. So thank you. I don't know what's going on now, but that's good. And the other two is that to the gentleman who spoke earlier, the quote was, "Teach me how to fish and I'll fish for the rest of my life." That's not biblical. That's Jesus didn't say that. That's some other author. So, and the other is the number of people who are homeless in Summit. They fell through the cracks through no fault of their own. They're not either alcoholics or on drugs. They may have lost a job or some other situation. So I wanted to speak to that. First of all, I want to thank Council President Vartan and members of Common Council, along with Mayor Radius, for being proactive in recognizing a problem and for identifying something that can potentially be used to address the problem while continuing to work on other solutions that are out there that we may not have tapped into yet, but may become available to assist in addressing the problem. As many of you know, I approach situations like this one from three perspectives. First, is there a need? Second, is it doable? And third, is it the right thing to do? And then I conclude by saying, just get it done. Communication, compromise, whatever it takes. Just get it done if there's a need, if it's doable, and is it the right thing to do? Using the analogy of having a cold and ignoring it, we'll see it become bronchitis. You ignore bronchitis and you end up with pneumonia. When you do not give the attention to something that needs it, it becomes a major problem. And I say to you this evening that the homeless situation in Summit is now at the cold level. Exploring opportunities that involve partnerships, interaction, communication, networking with the county or state or even the federal government that can be used to address this cold situation, the homeless situation, that could involve getting grants that could be used for mental health, finding out other ways of addressing addiction and mental health assistance, alcohol, job opportunities, a whole litany of things that money can help with, is nothing more than a win-win situation for Summit. And this opportunity, in my opinion, should be fully explored. Again, I received I printed it out on email. I got from the City of Summit Press Office, continuum of care information fact sheet from Christina Topolowski. To me, that covered every question that needed to be asked, and she was candid and provided the answers. But again, this opportunity should be fully explored. It does not involve any money obligation or commitment by Summit, and Summit will not be harmed in any way by participating in this opportunity. There is no downside to exploring this opportunity. Summit needs to be in the room. Summit needs to be at the table to learn of resources that are available to help before homelessness in Summit goes from a common cold to pneumonia and ultimately to an epidemic. We are blessed, we are fortunate, we are grateful that we have in Summit warm hearts and grace and the interfaith community, not-for-profits, that are doing their part, but they cannot do it all. There's nothing wrong with seeking help when you recognize you need help. There's nothing wrong with being in a room over and against being outside of the room, wondering what is going on in the room. There's nothing wrong with being in that room and seated at the table to learn about what resources are available that you did not know about, that you can accept or reject, but at least you have the opportunity to explore. So again, this is an opportunity, in fact, an excellent opportunity for the city to explore and learn about resources that may be available from all levels of government. And I say to you this evening, please don't close your eyes and ears to exploring what is available beyond Summit and that will benefit Summit. There's no need to delay. There's no need to table. There's no need to interject fear over facts. There's no need to do anything other than take advantage of what has been offered, that you can learn more of the opportunities. You can accept or reject them. So I simply ask that you do not delay this opportunity and regret it later. Homelessness in Summit is real. It cannot be wished away. So I say be proactive, deal with it now, explore what resources and help is out there that can benefit Summit. The county is one possibility. There might be another agency at the state, and if there is, explore that. It's not going to hurt or harm Summit to have a council person and for Summit to become a member of this continuing institution, or whatever you might want to call it. But I do say that you will benefit from it. It's in our best interest, and by doing so, you become part of the solution rather than part of the problem. Summit has a history of partnerships. We've accepted money from the American Rescue Plan for COVID relief. We've gotten grants for public art, for police and fire, for education, from cleaning up of Bryant Pond, for affordable housing, to only name a few. This opportunity is no different. So I would encourage you to seize the moment do what is right. And then, if this doesn't work, you can only say you tried. And there's nothing that beats failure better than a try. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Don?
Don Nelson, 20 Plain Street. On the surface, this sounds like a great idea, and I'm sure that it is. I just have one question for you, and maybe this is one of those strings attached that we've overlooked. In your own fact sheet provided by the speaker, or Lisa Tabowski, whatever her name is membership in the COC considered a I can't say this word, requisite to potentially applying for grants from the federal, state, or county governments? Is that for all grants, or is that just for homeless assistance or social services grants?
It's just for some grants. Right, so for the grants offered through the COC, membership is a prerequisite, yes, but that's not all the grants in existence
Okay,
that have
so
to do with this issue, yeah.
This office, this is a county office,
It's an organization organized by the county.
but, so
yes.
it's not a
Yeah.
county office?
The administrators of it are county employees, yes.
Okay. They're funded by our tax dollars.
Yes.
So, in my previous life, I dealt with the county on several levels, and I know it's, Mayor, I completely agree with you, it's impossible to get answers. My point is, we're funding this organization. Why don't we already have a seat at the table?
We should have.
Okay,
We didn't know about it.
okay.
And that leads me to believe potentially, possibly, maybe they didn't want to split up the pie.
And that leads me to further question is, why isn't Cranford, Westfield, Union, Springfield, all those other towns involved? If it's,
I don't know.
I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it seems like the towns that truly need it take advantage of it, which is
Well,
good.
Right now, Summit is of the 27 towns in Union County, we are number 5 in the amount of homeless people in our community.
Yeah, I agree. I see it every
So
day.
maybe the others don't feel they need it, or they don't know about it.
Okay, okay. So, and another thing that I'm struggling with is it talks to the downsides of lack of networking. Mayor forums, council president forums, business administrator forums. You guys all get together, that's networking, is it not?
Was I invited to it?
Well,
Was I invited?
well,
Did we miss the council president?
no,
forum?
I think I said council
Yeah.
president.
No, I mean, I don't.
My
I
point
haven't heard
is,
of
my
something.
point is,
Yeah.
I think on the surface, this is a good thing. I think it will definitely help Summit. I know the Interfaith does a great job. I worked with them for a little while. These little things thrown out there kind of threw me for a loop, that you can't apply for social service grants unless you're a member.
Only certain grants
Well,
that are provided through this program.
No, I get,
right?
that's what I mean. Social services grant provided through this, but where does that money come from? It comes from our tax dollars, which we shouldn't have to, it's kind of backwards, okay? So that, I'll leave that hanging out there.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up. Yeah.
Hi, good evening. My name is Tina O'Connor. I live on 10 Myrtle Avenue. And I'm just going to piggyback on Mr. Nelson's comment. This is a question that has been raised a couple of times tonight, but we haven't really gotten quite a straight answer from City Council. So several of you have stated several times that it is kind of very important and imminent that we join this COC and we vote on it tonight. But it seems to be that it's common knowledge that anyone can attend this very important meeting on May 18th. So I have to ask, why is it so important that we vote tonight and join if Mr. Vartan, Ms. Allen, and anyone in the public can join? That is a question that has not been answered, and I would like an answer. Thank you.
Thank you. I thought that I had covered that, which was that this is a very urgent issue for the people that are homeless in this community and the people that are caring for those people in this community, we should not delay when we have the opportunity to be leveraging the power of this government to be helpful, and in that it doesn't cost us anything. That's my response.
May I say something?
Sure.
I would just like to say through you, Council President, that the tabling that I was recommending tonight, one of the reasons I was recommending to table it, I was under the understanding, and Council President, correct me if I'm wrong, but that we would not get a seat at the table on May 18th unless we voted tonight. So I felt as though, most of you know me, I'm pretty kind, I volunteer all the time. It certainly is not that I don't believe in the COC. I simply felt rushed, considering Council President Vartan told me we had to make a decision tonight or we couldn't attend the May 18th meeting, and I found out, number one, that's not the case, and number two, that we would not get access to the HIMA system. And those were two really things that I really just needed to do more research around, and certainly...
So I don't think I represented that we would be unable to attend unless we voted tonight. Tonight to you in our excuse me.
I think just...
Excuse me, please.
I don't...
So
Maybe it was to the public. I
So
don't know.
what I expressed at the last council meeting and what I expressed in my conversation to you and what I'm expressing this evening is that I believe that this is a very urgent thing and that it's very important that we move forward with it because there's no reason not to. So I'll repeat that again. Thank you. Other comments from the community? Yeah.
Good evening. Try not to be repetitive with all that's happened and discussed this evening. My name is Amanda. Pardon me. Thank you. My name is Amanda Block, B-L-O-C-K. I reside at 13 DeBerry Place. I'm the founder and director of Grace. Grace is a member of the Continuum of Care. We joined at the recommendation of the United Way of Union County, Overlook Behavioral Health, and Overlook Community Health in order to learn more about not just helping our currently unhoused in Summit, but enabling homelessness prevention measures. And because of the partnerships found present in the COC, we've actually prevented homelessness among our families in Summit this year. The COC meetings, they create a network of information and support between the municipalities and social service agencies. The meeting agendas are actually issues that flow through the Human Services Advisory Council of Union County. And it's the member organizations of the COC that create the agenda about the issues that are most pressing at that time. So this can be alcoholism and drug addiction, mental health, disability services, all of these social determinants of health that enhance the overall well-being of the community and can predict the rate of homelessness within the community. By joining the COC, there are no mandatory actions other than attending the meetings. And this membership increases access just to information to consider. More of us would have access to news and programs that other municipalities and institutions have enacted. We would then be able to consider programs relating to housing and homelessness in this time of historic need. I know that Grace is one of several institutions within Summit who receive calls and emails and messages nearly daily about unhoused individuals and households that really are on the precipice of homelessness. And now is the time that we form together to look at all of the resources at our disposal. To anyone who would like, and I offer the general public this invitation, to anyone who would like more information about what it's like to be a part of the COC, or if they'd like to see for themselves, please contact me. I'll share minutes from previous meetings, or you could join me at the next meeting, May 18th, 10 a.m. on Zoom. I'll be happy to answer any questions then. There's so much information. There's so much misinformation. We need our leaders to access the best programs and services and network in order to manage our community effectively. And the COC of Union County is light years behind other counties. That's why we don't have the clear-cut information. That's why other municipalities haven't heard about it. And that's why now is the time for other municipalities and other nonprofits to join to shape this at the ground level and make sure that the discourse is what would benefit our community. So all of you, join me, please. Love to share the information, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Council President, I'm sorry.
Yes.
You know, through you, I just wanted to ask Amanda a question. Do you mind? Just because she's here?
Sure.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So through you.
You want to come?
Yeah. Thank you, Amanda. So are there other cities at municipalities at the table?
Yes.
When you're in the meetings?
Yes.
Okay. And do you, I don't know, publicly, you can say how many cities are in it? Or come to the meetings?
To be honest with you, I only know based on minutes and the meetings I've attended. They don't publish a list. There's actually a big discussion about that at the last meeting as to whether they would publish a list for privacy reasons. I can tell you that I have heard municipalities speak, and I've read minutes where they have given reports.
Okay. And so this is truly out of curiosity. So City of Summit, any of us can go because it's a public meeting. Would we find out any information going just on our own cognition versus being a member? Is there different information you get as a member versus not?
No, not at all. So
Okay.
there would be no difference. So in terms of receiving information, no. In terms of whether we can access programs and funds as a municipality, that is the opportunity that Summit would miss in not joining the COC. So yeah, yes and no is the answer to that question. But certainly there's just benefit in receiving the information, and there could be provided, the master plan, the goals within the master plan. How is it that we could access additional funds or additional programs from being a member to achieve the goals within our community?
So, and the last question, Council President. So would it be, I'm here, maybe I got it wrong. It sounds like the Interfaith Council, as the providers, not everybody has joined. So it sounds as though the providers, every provider should join. It shouldn't just be the city, that anybody who is in, trying to help should go to these meetings.
Oh, absolutely right. So in discussing the rising unhoused population in Summit with all of the network that I work with at Grace, each of them were really convinced me. Didn't have to work hard to convince me, but really gave me a lot of information to say, you need to be at the COC, you need to be a part of these conversations, you need to learn as much as possible of the information that flows through that. I, as Grace, do not intend on applying for a grant, but we don't have to, because the network that is available, there are other programs in place that we can then access by being a part of the conversation.
I'm sorry, I do have one more question. Does that mean that can any provider apply for a grant?
You have to be a member of the COC in order to apply for a COC grant.
So as a member, you could apply for a grant?
If I deemed it within my mission, again, the grants that come through are like build affordable housing. That's not what Grace is going to do, and so that doesn't work within our mission. If it were, I'm even trying to think of an example of a grant that I've seen made available that fits within the mission, but having understanding of how to help people apply for affordable housing, information like that, that is very valuable to the organization.
Okay, so what I'm
Through
hearing...
you, Council President, I really need to jump in
Sorry.
here. This is such a wonderful line of questioning, because what you are illuminating for us is what is the missing link to some of the questions that I'm hearing. What is the benefit of a municipality joining, It is the federal, state, and counties government's way of providing a structure for collaboration. It is, and you are unable to apply for some of the grants if you're not a member.
Active member.
If you're not an active member, and this is the structural mechanism that allows collaboration to happen. And I think that is the missing link that what Delia, I know you are asking. We don't have to, we can just show up and get the benefit. You can get the benefit of the information and the networking, but you cannot get the funding that is being provided that is about how monies are coming down through the different levels.
May I give an example, actually, of a program that a municipality would benefit from that I learned about in the past month? Is anyone here familiar with the organization Monarch Housing?
Yes.
So they provide housing, they provide homelessness prevention, they provide a lot of support. There is a landlord support program that a municipality can apply for, where if a landlord provides housing within a certain budget bracket, they provide funding for maintenance, support to help the landlord keep the tenant housed, and keep the landlord, indeed, keep the rent paid, shall we say. And that is something that would be a great benefit that is on the municipal level that an organization couldn't necessarily apply for.
May I?
And I'm really anxious
May I
to
say
hear
something?
from Rich, because I think he would be able to provide additional information, not to dismiss you at all, but.
I don't want to put anybody on the spot. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but if you want to come and talk with us, we would love to.
Can I just address Councilwoman Harrison's comment real quick? Sure. I just wanted to say, respectfully, Councilwoman Harrison, I didn't mean like we wouldn't go to the COC ever. I just meant for the first meeting or two we could attend without being a member if the community had more questions. So that's all I meant, not saying we would never do it. I just thought the community might need more time to learn more about it. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rich Uniak, president at Bridges Outreach. I did figure since my name had been referenced a few times, I would say hello. We were founded here in Summit almost 35 years ago, so I feel very honored to represent this organization. We do currently employ a full-time licensed social worker, so if you have a need that you see in the community, please do reach out to us. The other thing that I really just wanted to highlight, and I was just so glad to hear the Bergen County model referenced, because I always like to talk about the fact that homelessness has been ended and was first ended here in New Jersey. In Bergen County, they've achieved what's called functional zero. It's a data-driven, continuous improvement approach that is centered around the county doing the work and being connected to the county housing authority, having all services under one roof, a very easy pathway into everything that a person needs, connected very, very quickly to housing. They can usually house people, I believe, within 45 days. And I do think that that is something that this county could use and that this municipality would have the opportunity to advocate for as a voting member of the COC, that such a model should be considered, should be adopted. And for me, that's a big upside to being a voting member of the COC, is being able to, as I keep hearing, have that seat at the table, have a vote, have a say. A lot of what we hear from people who are experiencing homelessness or the imminent threat of homelessness in this town is that they don't want to go to Elizabeth, right? And there really isn't anything else besides in Elizabeth. And maybe something needs to be created in Plainfield, somewhere in Western Union County. I don't have all the answers, but I think that there does need to be a county-led solution, given that they are receiving not just tax dollars from Summit, but significant federal revenues that they develop strategies on how to spend that Summit doesn't get to vote on. So that, for me, is a big reason why I am increasingly seeing that Summit should be able to have a say as to how the county is tackling homelessness, because Summit is certainly being affected by homelessness in Union County.
Thank you. Thank you, Rich. One of the great things that Rich said to me in a conversation about this was, you want to be the one to say, hey, put your boss on the phone, right? And when Summit is there and in the room and a part of it, if we're hearing something we don't like from one of these other county agencies, or we can say, hey, we want some attention paid to Summit. And we can't do that if we're not there. We're not a part of it. So, thank you. All right, yes.
Hi, I'm Stacy Allen. I'm on Plymouth Road. I've been researching the COC since you guys brought this up a couple weeks ago. I've learned that almost all funding from COC is given to projects that entail some kind of construction. COC does a priority ranking and awards 0 points to projects that do not include housing. It seems like Summit is joining the COC, and that might be aimed at making homeless shelters, which I think President Vartan brought up earlier, that was not the priority. But can you please clarify what is the priority if the funding that we would be getting would be for construction and for sheltering? What other kinds of money could we get, and what would that be for?
Sure. So I think the priority is fewer homeless people in Summit, which I think everybody on the dais has continually been saying over and over again is our goal. And I'm sorry, the second part of the question?
Well, the question is if we're looking for funding for joining. I mean, obviously we can attend the meetings. We've all learned that tonight. So we can attend the meetings anyway and get connected. But if we're looking for funding, and that's what you say the rush is to get funding to help our problem, it sounds like they only award funding when you're actually building something or doing some sort of construction.
So there's no, there's no program at this point. There's nothing other than just going and being a part of it and learning. There's nothing that we're actually applying for. There's no grant program that we're actually applying for at this moment. And we hope to discover some help. We hope to discover some help here. And I think, Mayor.
I mean, we would only apply for funding for things that we felt were necessary we could use in Summit. And we'd want to use in Summit money. We don't want to construct a shelter. Now, Summit Warm Hearts has to raise money every year for a security guard to stay at the churches in the nights when folks are sleeping there from November through March. We have several different houses of worship that are providing food and meals on cold nights. We have someone who's working who's volunteering at the Beacon United during the day from 9 to 1 to assist with these folks and help them do the intake, get the information about them, help find job training, help find housing for them through vouchers. Case management. Bridges has a social worker, and Atlantic Health has a social worker that they help us, but not all the time. So I would call those soft costs, things that we could use that would help our current organized structures, let's say, Summit Warm Hearts, the Interfaith, help them provide the services that they're currently providing without having to, on an annual basis, go to the public, private citizens, and raise funds. I mean, that would be my idea of one of the first things. If those programs, if grant money is not available for them, then, then we learn. We don't get the money.
So is it totally blind right now? Is it just a hope that they will have those types of soft programs?
We need to learn, yes.
So
yes.
There's no things that you've seen that you have your eye on? Because it sounds like they really focus on giving.
Well, if they do, then we're not going to have the success that we'd like to have, but we have to find out.
We also heard that we had earlier, we have an extremely lean municipal budget. We have no additional funding for any new staff, any new programs. If there's a grant program that requires matching funds, sorry, we can't do it, right? If and I think that's like a really good frame of reference to look at this through. We just got our budget situation also. Yeah.
And you have to say that, please say that the Bergen model was something that you all visited. You visited, Nora. we talked about it, so the fact that folks are saying that is something that is a good thing, it has been at the core of what this council and staff have investigated. And so, and here's where I'm like wanting to jump out of my seat, because I am now hearing a disconnect between what is existing in other places that is missing at the county is what what in the county of Union, we think we can force to have happen. And it doesn't have to be to build shelters. It could be the things that you all are raising, but if we are not at the table and as a municipality.
So you say we'd be pushing for Union County to get these services and then help Summit, or that Summit would deal with them directly? And that we would be the hub of this kind of activity?
Well, no. We would not commit ourselves to being the hub for Union County. And what I want to make sure, Council President, I am hearing a disconnect that needs to talk about a structure that is being formed to get funds and ideas that the federal government is looking for ideas for local implementation.
How long has COC been around? It's not last year, right?
Can I
10 years
just
ago?
say
How
something?
old is it?
May I say something?
Sure.
Well,
I didn't research that part.
so I wasn't going to pull these out because I'm apparently the person who doesn't want to help the homeless now, which isn't true. But one of the things that I was really frustrated around, and again, I didn't know how long the COC had been in existence. This is what I found when I tried to find the Union County website. So it's not that I don't want to help the homeless, or all of these people don't want to help the homeless. The website isn't where it was. When I looked on the HUD Exchange for who's in charge of the COC, I'll pick that up later, who's in charge of the COC, her name was Samantha Carpio. When I called Samantha Carpio yesterday, again, I just learned about this 3 weeks ago. When I called Samantha Carpio yesterday, now I knew the answers, but again, I'm trying to educate myself as I would the public. So I called Samantha. She no longer works for Union County. So I got Randy. Randy, are you in charge? No, I'm not in charge. I write the grants. Okay, we talk about what kind of grants you write. Well, if you're not in charge, who is in charge? Jennifer. Can I talk to Jennifer? No, Jennifer's on maternity leave. Okay, who's in charge? I know Samantha's in charge. Who's in charge? Agnes is in charge. I ask Agnes a few questions. I'm back to Samantha. So again, what's the rush? It sounds like a great thing, but what is the rush tonight?
So Delia, those would have been excellent questions to submit to me.
I just got them yesterday. Yesterday.
Hang on. When I asked after the last council meeting, let's get all of our council questions together.
I was working on them
and we'll go,
as fast as
and
I
we'll
could.
go to the county and we'll ask our questions, and then they'll get them back to us in writing, and then we'll all be able to read them.
I don't want to ask my questions through you, I'm sorry. Maybe sometimes, but I need to do my own. I'm trying to get caught up. You guys have been doing this for 3 or 4 months.
I understand. So, okay, let's.
My only point about asking how long COC has been in existence is how long have we been in the dark about it?
I think our mayor has been very candid with you, with the public, and I know we're talking about so many different things.
No, I just mean for us to think it's so good right now.
No. We are telling you the county has, the framework may have been in existence in the state of New Jersey, and how it is executed in Union County has not benefited Summit. It has not benefited Summit. And there has been a concerted effort because the funding and the opportunity for different ways to access federal state dollars is changing. And now an opportunity exists for Summit to influence how the county is operating, which we need you to know has been inferior. We all know that. And now this is the opportunity that Summit can influence it so that Summit is benefiting. Okay? And you in terms of what our councilwoman is talking about, what is the holdup? What is the downside of not moving now? We will be held up as a municipality to move forward. As a municipality to move forward because of the way our structure works with how decision-making happens. Okay?
Through you, Council President?
Yeah.
Sorry, I did have an answer to her question real quick. It's 1994, I'm sorry.
J.C.
No.
Allen.
Doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Okay. Carry on, yes.
Hi, Jamel Boyer, 204 Morris Avenue. I wasn't going to talk today, but I was just witnessing, as you stated, Susan, a disconnect, right? A disconnect between council and a disconnect between two parts of our community. And I think that's the point, though, right? I think the point, in order to make this work, we need community buy-in. We need both sides to come together and say, hey, we want to do this. Now, the other disconnect that I see is that Councilwoman Allen and Hamlet are just saying, hey, we just need more information so that we can pull the community together and that we can do this as one community. Because we can't have one fraction that wants it and another fraction that doesn't. We'll be debating and having arguments at every council meeting. Now, Council President, I heard you say before on Facebook Live, and there was a previous meeting, that you wanted comprehensive knowledge of this program before you would vote on it and move forward. And it seems like there are still kind of some unknowns. And what I've learned tonight, and actually I learned the other day, is that you don't have to be a member, right, to attend the meetings. And there's a whole ranking system, right? And there's a project that needs to happen. We have to have some idea of what we want to do. Is it sustainable? Some kind of tangible idea. And I think what the community is just asking is that, unless funding is imminent, but if I know the federal government, there's nothing imminent about the federal government. But I think what the community is asking for is, hey, what's the plan? Right? We just want a plan. So, I get all the back and forth, right? But we are a Summit, right? We are a community. So if we can all just get on the same page and we all can get buy-in, I think maybe this will work. But at least if we have all the education and we're all edified about it, then we can, one part can equally stand up and say, I hate this idea, and the other part can say, I love this idea, right? But at least we'll have all the information, and no one will be in the dark about it. And I think that's all we're saying. That's all I have to say. That's it. Thanks.
Hi, my name's Mary Cronquist, 42 Escott Way. This is like an hour and a half past my bedtime, so I am going to be very brief. So the way I understand it, the meeting is on the 18th, that we would be going as a member, assuming it gets approved this evening. I guess my question is, I'm of the mind, a more measured, slow approach might be a little bit better in this case. Is there any issue with attending the meeting as an interested party on the 18th, then regrouping with the community the week after or the beginning of June, getting past Memorial Day, and explaining to them, how did the meeting go? what was covered, what are the expectations, just so that everybody's aware. And then you can regroup at the next council meeting in June and go to whenever the next COC meeting is, you can then go as a member. I guess to me, that's what my husband and I would do if we were discussing something for our family, is to get information and then quickly make a decision and move on. And I think that's really what people are looking for, is just at least a little bit of a community meeting to discuss and put it out there so everybody who's in town is aware of this. I only learned about this yesterday, and I actually do read a lot of the community information that's shared. So thinking that people have any idea what COC means is totally wrong, because where I grew up in Chicago, COC is what they call a fly ball that goes to center field. It's called a can of corn. So that's all I wanted to share. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm still Gil Oren, and it's still the 18th. I did submit 29 questions that have been supplied to me. Half of them been answered so far, half. And I've learned a lot tonight. I think what I heard last week from Council President, you have committees. And when the committees are ready, it comes here. And if you're a council person who asks a question to another committee, that's sandbagging. I think my man here, Jamal, that I coached. He's right. We got to get together. Trust. We don't have trust here. You have to trust the public, and we have to trust you. Trust has two main ingredients: truth and transparency. And this is not ready for a vote to join something we had to look up when they were put in existence. I did ask questions. I got some answers. I can answer one question for you right now. Who are the municipalities that are members right now? And they did answer that. It wasn't private. Mrs. Toplowski answered it. I have it right here. Mm-hmm. They are the City of Elizabeth, Linden, and Rawway. They're the municipalities. Plainfield and Elizabeth have a housing authority that's a member. But the municipalities are 3 of the 21, or is it 22 municipalities? Where are they? Where are the other ones? Here they are. She answered it. Mrs. Toplowski. Other municipalities have been invited in the past, but due to staffing limitation, were unable to participate. And you just said, Mr. President, we don't have money for a staff if we're going to get involved in this. How simple is this to attend some of these meetings? This didn't happen overnight, homelessness. And we all, believe me, I feel exactly the way you do. You're a pillar of this community, and I respect you greatly. But we do need a little...
Gil, you're not going to be on the...
Steve, people from home won't hear you if you don't speak into the mic.
Yeah.
3 minutes?
No.
No, we're saying speak into the mic so
into the
people
mic.
can hear what you're saying, and the people watching.
I will conclude today.
So 2 quick things. So
Here's what I'm saying.
okay.
All the questions I asked that were given to me, half have been answered. The other half have to be answered as well. And wonderful questions have come up tonight. And all the spirit, everybody here agrees. We have to do something. We have to do better. We can always do better. It's like parking. There'll never be a solution to parking in Summit. But it can be improved. And we can improve it.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's where I'm coming from. This is silly to rush. That destroys the trust. You say, well, we've been doing this since November. I'm with this young lady, where are you?
She left.
So, yeah, just a couple quick things.
Yeah.
So, the other municipalities, the 3 municipalities that you listed.
The other ones have all been invited. They declined
So-
because they didn't want to create staffing,
Right.
and they wanted to handle it themselves where they are.
So the little bit of confusion is that for some of these other municipalities, all of them actually, they're sending to be part of it staff people from the municipality, and that's not what we're doing. I know for sure Michael has a lot to do, and all the other department heads have too much to do. So this is going to be me, Greg Vartan, representing the city of Summit. We're not going to assign it to another council member because we all have enough meetings, but there'll be an alternate spot, and Lisa will come with me, and that's fantastic. But other municipalities are sending staff people, and I think that's just a little bit of a disconnect. They weren't talking about hiring more
This is
people.
what she
just for the
answered, not
purpose
you.
of- Right. Well,
She
sorry.
said this.
Yeah, that's what yeah.
They're not members.
Sure, and then one more thing.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say, this idea that we've been working on this since November, we've been
You
meeting.
have, not-
No, I have not. That's what I'd like to
Well,
to
somebody
explain.
has.
No, would you please
A
let me
committee
finish?
has.
Let me just explain.
Go ahead.
So this committee that has been meeting, it was the Mayor's Forum on Diversity that started meeting with the Interfaith Council, Summit Warm Hearts, and, all of the groups that, and Bridges as well, all the groups that have contact with homelessness. And the idea was to talk about how to sort of get everyone out of their silos and work together. That started in November. We didn't learn about the COC until we spoke to Dr. Callahan in February. And as soon as he told us about this, we invited him to come to a council meeting. So we have not been holding this secret from other
That's
people.
a good step.
And what I want to explain to you and everyone else, we met with Julia Orlando, we went to visit the Bergen County, but that's only something we can do if we have the county's cooperation. That is all county-run in Bergen County. That's, it's something we'd very much like to do, and that's a reason to join the COC, is to be at the table to say, we want to do what Bergen County's doing in our county. And
I don't disagree, but to use the baseball analogy, you're in the dugout. We are outside waiting for a ticket for information. And I think everybody here, if there's anybody here that's against helping the homeless, they should leave as well. But it's not ready. You haven't brought the public with you. And if you make this decision, it'll be the same thing that before. You have committees that when you're ready to vote, you vote. No, you got to involve the public.
We have
The
involved
public.
the most impacted. The most impacted is who comes to that mayor's forum on diversity. Please understand the difference between the public and who is at the table. And that is the difference between the urgency that we're talking about here.
There's no urgency.
Did you just
Yeah.
hear from Amanda Block? There is an urgency, and some of the other folks that are talking. And I hear you, and I know I'm out of order, so Council President, forgive me, but I
respect you.
I really do think in terms of the urgency that the downside of putting this into the public's hands is creating a bigger divide. It is going to create a bigger divide. And if you would come to the Mayor's Forum on Diversity and join and learn about the most impacted and do what you do best, which is offer solutions instead of an avenue to divide, is what is happening, is what I really have to say, that is the delay that we who are feeling the urgent plea from those who are most impacted, and they are the public. Those who are coming are those who are providing the services without any resources.
Bring the public with you, and.
We do want to do that. We
and-
do want to do that.
And you have a large interested public here.
Yes.
Learning, learning, learning.
Yes.
You, whoever's on that committee, had 4 months to work on it. We've had 4 days. I'm saying it's not urgent in terms of a month. There's no reason, an ordinance is introduced, then there's a hearing. A resolution can be voted on at the same time, but it can be done next month after people who are interested go to the meetings, and the rest of this public gets with you. Trust is truth and transparency. Give it time.
Thank you.
Tara Gagliano, 6 Ashwood Court. Boy, you guys are very passionate about helping the homeless. Are you guys that passionate about helping tax-paying residents? Okay, because I'm one of the most impacted tax-paying residents in this city right now. And I want to know if this urgency to join the COC at this point is a backdoor way for more affordable housing funding, because everybody seems to be talking about grants, access, and other things, okay? And nobody up in the council has expressed what those grants are. I haven't heard anything other than from a testimonial here about affordable housing. I just find it funny that, President Vartan is going to be on that committee representing the city of Summit, and aren't you on the housing committee?
I am.
Yeah. So, my house is a duplex, and my house is right next to the Morris Habitat for Humanity site, and it's owned by my parents. And my parents, along with the other residents of Ashwood Court, fought to keep the court a court and not have an access way. We did not fight Habitat for Humanity or housing. As a matter of fact, part of the settlement was for my parents to grant an easement for that site to have water. And that's what we did. And now my property remains a mess. Mayor Radist, I've been up to speak with you several times about it. Marjorie Fox, we've spoke to you. You didn't help us at all.
I don't think you did speak to me.
Oh, it was in the beginning on the last council meeting when all of this was approved, along with President Vartan, who was just a councilman. Yes. I want to know if the RFPs that were put through for Ashwood Court, which would now not only, I would have affordable housing on the side of my house, but now in front of my house. That parcel of land that is literally a postage stamp, is that a backdoor way to get more funding to develop that land now?
No.
Wait.
Okay.
So
So I think we're talking about two very separate
No, it's
issues
not,
here.
because we're talking about grants. I heard about grants. It is directly connected to the COC. I want to know if us joining the COC and the urgency for that is to provide more affordable housing. We have housing on Morris Avenue for the Morris Habitat for Humanity site. You want to put an RFP through for more housing in front of my house. I am completely surrounded.
So-
On top of that, you have housing on Russell Place. You have housing down on Morris Avenue. Why is all housing, affordable housing, all this new housing is being located in East Summit?
Okay,
Yeah.
joining the COC has nothing to do with trying to get more affordable housing, nothing.
So what are these grants that I'm hearing about?
We
I need
to look-
clarification.
We want to join to learn about what grants are available.
But they
We are-
don't do
Right, and
long-term
so-
affordable
and so-
housing.
They
Let's
don't
just-
do affordable housing.
Right, and so let's just
I'm
separate.
hearing about
Excuse
construction,
me,
new construction.
One moment. So let's just separate the two issues again as well, because there was several years ago, right, the settlement agreement between the City of Summit, the residents of Ashwood Court, and Habitat for Humanity, right? And that's a completely separate thing from what we're discussing here. And there has been no RFP submitted for anything on Ashwood Court, and I think, should get together and talk about that separately at a different time, but it has really genuinely no connection to the issue that we're talking about. I look forward to connecting though, and we can talk about that, really. So, thank you.
Well, you'll need to connect with me because
Yeah,
both my parents.
send me an email, please. Send me an email and we'll get together. I'm right across the street, still on Russell Place, and my grandparents are still
Yeah,
right
I know,
around
your
the corner.
grandparents are my
Yeah.
brother's godparents.
Yeah.
My parents were
Right
very
around
good
the corner.
friends.
So please send me an email, we'll talk about that, but it's really a very separate issue.
But I think it should be on the record because my parents have died since, and I cannot settle my dad's estate.
I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that.
You know, we're working on the deed. I mean,
No, you're not working on the deed. I had to hire my attorney to correct the deed. So now it's coming out of my pocket because the city of Summit
No.
owns my house.
yeah.
Yes.
You know what? This is not part of this conversation.
Councilor, may I say something?
Yeah,
That's
let's
not
keep
true.
Let's keep it.
I think
keep
it's
it on the
important that
COC.
can I just address her comment real quick?
Okay, excuse me, everybody.
It won't,
Excuse me, everybody.
it will, I
Okay.
think.
All right. Let's continue with public comment.
Hello, Eric Krzyzlowski, 169 Broad Street. I will avoid being redundant. Had personally shared some comments with the council and the mayor, just in terms of my own personal feelings. I am of the opinion and implored this group to considering holding off on the vote. I know we can go back and forth playing ping pong. I have a very, very simple compromise as a solution. Since there is skepticism, and I'll address kind of the elephant in the room, the T word, trust. What if we, since we're headed down the inevitable path of voting in favor of this, what if either Councilmember Allen or Councilmember Hamlet were to be the representative for Summit for COC?
We should discuss it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Other comments? Yeah, can we try to, let's do everybody once first, like seconds, or in the cafeteria or something.
Hello, council members. Reverend Dr. Robin Tanner. I'm Vice President of the Summit Interfaith Council, as well as a member of the lead ministry team at the Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation. Apologies for my late arrival to this meeting. I was at our congregational board meeting, so I did something wrong in a past life, I guess, to keep going to board meetings. I had an eloquent piece I was going to share, an etymology of the word welfare, but just to get down to an exact concern I have, whether we join Continuum of Care tonight or the vote is postponed, I agree that there is a deep issue of trust, but I think truth and transparency work both ways, and that it's not only the truth and transparency coming from council, but it's also within the Summit community. And I'm disturbed just by the small amount of behavior I've seen, even within this meeting and in prior council meetings. There's a certain erosion of civility in Summit, and we often talk about a Summit being exceptional. And what concerns me is a growing trend across the country of a breakdown in trust and a way in which we behave together as a community. When I was a child, I used to spend many summers with my grandparents. And on one of those summers, we woke up early in the morning, and my cousins and I heard my grandmother scream at my grandfather, "Bob, are you trying to kill me?" And of course that got our attention because they were normally pretty civil to one another. And we went into the kitchen and asked my grandfather what happened, and he explained that my grandmother, being a diabetic, he had put the wrong jam on the toast and gave her the full sugar jam. And that's what occurred. And we said, "Well, why did she scream at you over that?" And he said, "Kids, it's never just about the jam." And I feel a little like it's not just about the jam in this moment. As we talk about truth and transparency, building trust. I think it's important within the community that all residents in Summit also commit to not sharing narratives without founding that those narratives are true, without sharing facts that have not been verified, and disputing the evidence that is put forward. Because what we begin to have is a conversation about the fears in the community, the fears of building a shelter for those who are unhoused, the fears of something being pushed upon people without any clear evidence that that is what is going to happen. So if we're going to talk about truth and transparency, I implore all of us, and I hold myself to this standard, to please share the facts, share the decision-making, but the backroom conversations and the constant interruption of council members and speaking over one another, and the lack of respect that we're showing one another just in this room this evening, I don't think is the exceptional Summit that we should be striving toward, or the people who built this community would seek of us.
Kevin McGoey, Woodland Avenue. I actually wasn't going to talk about this. I don't know enough about continuum of care. I don't want to know enough about it at this point. I spent way too much time digging in and trying to understand other things that have gone on. But there is a pattern of making uninformed, poor decisions that this city council has made. And there's also a pattern of not exactly owning up to them. And I was just sitting back there right now, and I think what she just alluded to was what goes on. And that you spread, you're a big part, believe it or not, the way that you present things, you make this about ideologies. Everybody, if these people were here during the ever meetings where they watched them, all that was ever asked for, and it's based on all of the mistakes that you guys have made, okay? You never admitted any of them. But we're just saying, here goes another situation where something gets brought up. People have questions, you can't answer them. Other council people have questions, you can't answer them. Gil, if you read through you guys should be thanking. You have a resident come in here thoughtfully presenting ideas, questions you should be asking on behalf of Summit. It helps you understand, what are we getting ourselves into, okay? I have heard numerous times, we have to join this because we can't attend the meeting if we don't join it. That was said numerous times. Nora, you said it to me yesterday. The thing is, all of these council meetings are on YouTube. So we can go back and, you guys know I'm good at this, right? I clip it and I point it out, and there's a ton more, right? And unfortunately for a lot of people, I think that we need to document why there is an enormous lack of trust. And I can document it all. It's going to take me a lot of time, but I will methodically go through and show times when you guys have knowingly misrepresented things to people and continued to knowingly misrepresent things. So now I'm in the back of the room next to a minister who's basically saying, when she comes up here, and it's about more than information, that it's about people's bias. People don't want this. This is the same thing that I heard you said I was against affordable housing because I said a building's too big, right? I gave you numerous reasons why it was a horrible financial deal. And at the end of it, you said, you're against affordable housing, that's why you're doing this. So you spread this. When you started off your thing, you talked about homelessness. We have a homelessness problem, and we can do the status quo or we can fix it. Nobody here is saying doing the status quo. There are a lot of other programs. When Callahan was here, he talked about Proceed. You didn't even know what it was. Proceed sounded like an excellent solution. It was something that helps people, and Nora, you explained to me yesterday, it helps people to stop becoming homeless. When they get into those financial situations, it's not going to help the drug addicts, but it's going to help the people that you're talking about. And that's going to help people in Summit. We should know about that. We should go after that. All we're saying is you're committing the city to something that we don't understand. And you can say you have a seat at the table, but Greg, you're one seat at a table of how many? Right? And I don't think Union County does a lot for us, but we're the rich town, and that's just the way the life works, and that is fair. The rich pay more because we don't need as much. We don't get as much back. That's just the way it works. It's interesting that the pilot program, one of the big selling points was, we don't send money to the county. So it's just frustrating for me to watch you guys literally divide. These people think that what the issue that we have is, we're against homeless people. We're against these dirty people. That's literally what he was basically implying to me, right? Like, you're biased. I'm not biased. It has nothing to do with that, but that's caused by you. It's by you telling these people or getting these people out. These people are against the COC. We're not against the COC. We don't know enough about it. We're against them making decisions that they don't fully understand. You know, that's all we're saying. And like, I don't know how you're ever going to regain trust. I don't know how you're ever going to do it. Because up until today, I'm hearing more lies. You've said we need to join this because we can't get money if we don't join it. But now you're saying we don't want money. We're not going to take the money. We don't even know what the money's for. I mean, it was interesting to hear Amanda. Like, I would love for Amanda. It seems like you guys could learn a lot from Amanda. How much have you talked to her?
A lot.
Right. Okay. Well, then why do we not have all the answers? That's all we're doing. You don't need to rush to do this. Then the people are saying it's unfair, it's cruel not to join because you're not going to help these people. What are they talking about? You can go. We can learn more. We can help people. We're not going to get money from them. According to Callahan, you had to have a program in place. Does the city have a program? Every single nonprofit, you guys should all join it because you have boots on the ground. You have things that you can get money from. We can't get any money. We don't have a program, right? So, and I still tonight, I don't know what the grants are. Amanda made it sound like a lot of it was for housing, and that's a concern for people because, you know, there's not a lot of trust here, and you can say one thing, and Greg, you're going to be the guy up there. How busy are you? I'm serious. You have a job. This is like your life, the city council thing. I mean, but you've made a ton of mistakes. At the last meeting, you told Orrin we had written approval from the NJDOT. You said that. You told him we would, for the Maple Street closure in 2002. You blatantly told him that. That was 100% factually inaccurate, and we'll get with that in general comments. But what I just couldn't stop is that you literally are dividing this town, making these people think that we're against this and that there's some kind of ideological divide. And you're fostering that and using it like a politician. It's just gross.
All right. Any other comments?
Chuck Rush, 10 Stony Hill Court. Leaders lead. I just want to zoom out here for just a minute. And one of the frustrating things, I've been a minister in Summit almost for 30 years. So this is not my first time to the rodeo with this. And most of the time, we haven't had that much that's been done on the part of the town, which is why our most creative outreaches have come from people in town. I wish we had those voices at the table coordinating with government so that we could get a bigger solution to this. The reason that the churches do so much with the homeless is because the town doesn't do much of anything for the homeless, and they end up at our door. And so Bridges started at Christ Church. The community food bank started from a woman in town who decided that she'd had enough of this, and somebody, you know, she wanted to take care of that. Amanda has started this program, reaching out to people. We've had all of these different, by the way, Family Promise also, first church, first town that they started in was in Summit, and our church was the first church that they actually had homeless people serving, all because people in town saw a problem and wanted to get involved, and this was their outreach effort to try to do it. We can do better than this, and longer term, we have never had a coordinated approach that has allowed us to provide services to people in our communities that have done anything with and through the government. It's all been just charity so far, and that's just not enough. This just isn't good enough, and the problem is going to persist. Doesn't have. I appreciate the drug addiction. It's all true, Marcus, you know, and I'm totally behind that. That's why we have 3 AA meetings every day at our church. But about 1% of our population is always going to be unable to provide for themselves for whatever reason it is. And they're just not going away, and we have to eventually, whether it's tonight or in the future, join the conversation more thoroughly than we have. We're just not doing a good enough job. We've got a tremendous amount of talent, and our ideas coming to the table are going to really maybe transform the whole way that we've been thinking about this in our county up till this point. Bottom line.
Thank you. Thank you.
Council President, can I just say, unless someone else, go ahead.
Yeah.
I just want to say a simple thing. Those people who are involved daily in taking care of the homeless want us to act quickly. Now, Councilwoman Allen, I empathize very much, and I thank you for the story you shared about your emotional, bivalent, so to speak, reaction to a situation that made you uncomfortable. Yes, fear, but also compassion. And I hear a lot of fear in this room. I hear a lot of fear about this. But nobody who knows how organizations work can argue that having a seat at a table is not a valuable thing to have. You always get a lot more having a seat at the table than not having it. It costs us nothing to get a seat at the table, and we can leave whenever we want if we don't like it. We need this. We need it quickly. We have our leaders in faith telling us that it's cruel not to do it. Maybe some people do not trust some people who sit at the dais because they're politicians. Maybe they're from the same party, maybe from the opposite party for whatever reason. But I think that the moral leaders of our community have spoken, have told us we need this quickly. So you guys get to vote. I don't, but I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Diego, can you just give us your last name and address?
Sorry, Diego Hoek, Nargar Court.
Thank you. Okay. Please.
Hi, Dory Gagnon. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but there's so much disconnect here at every meeting. And it's like, it's so disgusting. It is almost 12 o'clock at night, and we hold these things on a big budget meeting, and I don't understand why. It's like, can't we digest the budget? It's like, that's hard enough, and poor Mr. Rogers has spent months on this, because it's like such a big thing. But, I want to applaud all the people here and the volunteers who do spend their time, Amanda and Interfaith and all the clergy and the ministers and everybody who, and up here, who have worked their time with the homeless. And tonight, it's not about who's against it and who's for it. It's about the trust. And Mr. Vartan, I'm sorry, with all due respect to you, you are not the person to be sitting with the COC discussing on how to tackle that. These people out here have worked with them. They're the ones, Amanda Block and all these people out here who actually spend day in and day out representing the homeless. But you being, on the affordable housing and then with the homeless, representing the COC, are not the man to do that. We need someone who understands what they're going through, someone who's been in rehab, someone who's been in the Marines and understands what they're doing on the ground and has a conversation with them. We need someone representing them and what they stand for. So with all due respect, we need someone from the city or someone with a nonprofit who's doing that. So if you're going to vote tonight on this, you really need to understand as an alternate or somebody else from the city what we're doing. And if we're going to be applying for those funds, because that's what obviously this sounds, because that point system that the COC outlined, it's really confusing. And it's really upsetting that there's no mental illness in there that it's tackling. Like, oh, I get like 3 points for tackling mental illness and helping them, because we need a social worker lined up for that. That's like #1 on the priority for these guys, and they need the help. So like what Marcus was talking about is like that should be huge, along, like they need housing. Is that what a big priority is? Because it sounds like it. But we don't have, you can't give us the answers. Everyone's asked all these questions. But I'm not trying to embarrass you or put you on the spot, but like we need, these people out here know what they're doing, and you being on both boards and all this affordable housing and stuff, I feel like we need to figure that out before we say, yes, you're representing the city and answering all these questions to help these homeless, when you might not be the right man for the job. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
Just one final comment. I think that at this point,
The need to join the organization, to me, is clear. It's needed to have a seat at the table. However, I don't think it limits how many people can attend the meetings. And as a result of that, Council President has offered, because I heard him say earlier that the rest of the council members are extremely busy. Not that he's not busy, but he volunteered to do that. So if he goes, what is there to say that people from the community cannot also attend along with him? We are a community of volunteers. Whoever wants to step up to the plate and attend with him, or when he cannot go, maybe one of the other council person can attend. So it doesn't limit, you know, I think we should give him credit for volunteering of his time, his willingness to go and learn, but he should not go alone. He should not be a lone ranger. So if there's anybody in the audience who's willing to say, Council President, I will go, I will accompany you, you know, we can have 5 or 6 members from the Summit community be there. As long as we have a seat at the table. He should not be the one representative, because if he came back and I wasn't there or you wasn't there, how do you know exactly what took place if you're talking about trust and transparency? If you're saying you don't trust him here, how are you going to trust him there? So what I'm saying is that we're not limited. Any member of Common Council can go with him. Any member behind, any person behind me can attend. If I'm available, I'll be willing to go. But don't put me down to go into the first meeting. So I think we all can share in this, and that's a way of building trust. Trust comes about, it's a work in progress. Once you lose it, you have to start back working at it. But it can be regained. But we're all in this thing together. We all either go up to the top together or we go to the bottom together. And I think we want to succeed in what we have to do. So I recommend that we approve this. We need to be there, but don't let him go by himself. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
What I'm hearing from the, I'm going to call them service providers, is there's the desperate need, and they need help immediately, and it's urgent, and I get that. What I only heard about this Bergen County program 2 days ago. Apparently you've known about it more, and you agree it's good. Rich backed me up, thank you so much, in saying that it has literally ended homelessness in Bergen County. To my knowledge, and I am very uninformed, that's pretty much the only solution that's working anywhere. So I see going in 2 different directions, and what I'm trying to say is, it sounds like the point of going to the COC is to get help for our service providers. It has, the homeless, despite all the work that they're doing, more and more and more, the homeless population is increasing. My gut tells me most of it are not Summit residents. I don't know. I asked that question. I didn't get an answer. I think we're providing so many services, people are coming here because we're treating them well. And I'm not saying not to do that. But I don't think the homeless population, the Summit homeless population, I don't know, is that big. And I'm not saying we don't help people. But the solution that's worked is the Bergen County one, which is county-centric. It's focused, it's one central location where every single service is provided. And I actually have a tiny bit of experience with it because my cousin's son is on the verge of being homeless and is probably going there. And I only was able to refer him because I heard about this 2 days ago. There's an intake, everything's there. He doesn't have to worry about laundry, food, nothing. It's in one location in Hackensack, opposite the county jail. It's not divided among all the other cities. I bet you, New Providence, Mountainside, Berkeley Heights, they're sitting back loving that we're taking care of all the homeless people in the area. We want to get the problem solved. And if joining the COC, if you can put pressure on the county to look at this Bergen County model, which is the only model that's working right? We see here, the more we do in Summit, the more our population grows. That's what I'm trying to say.
Thank you, Vicki.
Marcus McNamara, 53 Morris Avenue. You know, there's a thing called enabling in addiction. And you have a parent or you have a spouse, and you keep getting them out of trouble. You keep getting out of trouble, and there's never consequences. Why would somebody stop? You know, that you could go online and look up numbers of homeless people who were arrested, who did this, and they were forced to finally get sober. All the services that everybody provides are fantastic. I was used when I am lower to moderate income. I'm not rich, and there's been numerous services that I've used personally in Summit to help with food and stuff when me and my wife had first gotten married. We're good now. We're good now because I got sober and became a man. But I think my biggest fear, and most people's fear here who don't want to sign this thing right away, is I'm getting a real hard sell here. Like if I go to buy a car and somebody really pushes on me, I don't like it. I'm getting a hard sell, and you know, I will volunteer and go with you guys, and we can go talk to these homeless people, find out exactly where they're from, what they need. You know, I will do that. I'll go to the COC. But I just feel it's really important not to just put Band-Aids on things. Like the real issues have to be addressed. Listen, I had a house in Summit, sold it, moved to Costa Rica, came back, was renting, wanted to buy a house. I can't afford a house in Summit. I had a great apartment. I was really good friends with the landlord, old guy. He passed away. His son raised my rent from $1,700 to $4,700. I had to go find a new place. I know what it's like. You know what I mean? I didn't blame anybody. I'm not, you know, I pulled my bootstraps up. You know what I mean? I could solve this thing right now, but nobody's going to like it because it's not going to be nice. You know what I mean? You got to have tough love. I know what it's like to be an alcoholic. They will take and take and take. I took and took and took. And I don't enjoy getting up here and exposing my past. I have a business here, all that stuff. I really don't. But I really feel this problem will not get solved if the number one underlying issue is mental illness and addiction. I had a lady call me. My wife's Costa Rican. I'm pretty close with a Costa Rican family or a community. This lady calls me. I don't know her. She's getting thrown out of her apartment. She's crying. She called me 20 times. You know, they got her a place down in North, but she wanted to stay in Summit. But, you know, I don't know. You know, just it's the whole process of doing it right the first time. Because these are decisions, Broad Street West, Maple Street, these are the decisions that will affect my children. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying this. Like I said, I don't have enough information. I don't know. And the biggest red flag, I listened to the guy, Callahan, whatever, the Irish guy, and I didn't hear one single mention of help for alcohol or drug addiction. And I don't pull punches. There may be one or two people living in a train station who are legitimately just homeless, they're hardworking, and something happened to them like almost happened to me. But I'd say 95% of them are drug addicted or alcoholic. And let's be real, we gotta be honest. And please, I really want you guys to be honest. I'm an honest guy. Please be honest with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council President, I just want to echo something that I've heard the last speakers mention, that Amanda mentioned, that is missing from this conversation, and it is about preventative homeless services. And that is what is happening at an epidemic rate. And these are people who are invisible to us because they're not reaching out. And these are people who have lived in Summit and who are unable to afford the things that are happening and reaching out through grace and through the interfaith. These are the invisible homeless that this opportunity will allow us to urgently address. So I just wanted to make sure that that gets into the conversation.
Okay, thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Sue Fiesler, 71 Madison Avenue. I have had the opportunity to talk to every single one of the homeless people who have come through Summit this year. I've gotten to know them. I know their needs. I know where they're from. And I can tell you, not all of them are drug addicts and alcoholics. I can also tell you that in July 19th, 1988, I came to Summit because I was in recovery. I was homeless before I went to Fair Oaks, and I moved to Summit to get my life back together. I can tell you every day I talk to the men and women in the train station. They're people. They're not homeless. They're people. The men and women in the train station who just want to get their life back together. They're in Summit not because we give them services. We give services because they're here. They're in Summit because they don't get beat up here. They get robbed in Morristown. They get beat up in Newark. They get beat up in Elizabeth. They don't get beat up in Summit. That's the bottom line. We have vets that are sitting in the train station that we're talking about right now. They went to Vietnam, and we're like, oh, wait, we don't have the time for this right now. Let's learn more. No, it's a matter of life and death. There is a sense of urgency for this. There is nothing to lose by joining this COC, but everything to gain. What we will lose by not doing it is more lives in the train station. And I'll tell you, I got to know these guys personally, and I take it all personal. And if you want to know about any one of them, just ask. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Sue. Will?
Will Vot Klimper, Colonial Road. After the previous speaker, we should almost close. Summit joining the COC could be the beginning of some of the other municipalities in our county joining. I think that's a leadership that we can provide. I confess I feel bad, I feel uncomfortable when I see a homeless person. I've been in situations where I've even been fearful. I'm probably not alone. The discomfort, the fearfulness that perhaps others have is manifesting itself tonight in a number of ways. I think it's manifesting itself in blindness to what we know, that COC is easy in, easy out. I think it leads us to focus on only moving forward if we have all the answers, when I believe we don't know all the questions. We don't know all the options. There's a hesitation here that comes out of the fear. The bad feelings manifest themselves. I've heard raised voices. I've heard the word disgusting. I've heard crazy. I think that's just because we're humans and the subject makes us nervous. I think the fear is unnecessary. It's unfounded. Join, please. Lead in our county. Once we're there, Westfield, Cranford, they may find they don't need to fear. Let's start. It's easy in, it's easy out. The questionnaire, I read the questionnaire or the questions and answers that was online. That was really useful. So, yeah, I'm nervous when I see homeless people, but I move ahead. I hope you will too. Thank you.
Can I make a comment, Council President?
Sure.
I would just like to say, and thank you for your comments, I would say that I was nervous when I went to war, but I went anyway. It's not that homelessness makes us nervous. And I think the mayor, with all due respect, she was trying to do something great here. She was really trying to figure out a problem with homelessness. And what happened was they went to Bergen County, which is doing great things. So they started doing great things, and I think Councilwoman Levine mentioned at a council meeting or two ago that maybe we should have given more updates, and maybe that would have sped up the learning curve. So I think the intentions were really good here, and I think that all of our intentions are to join the COC. What happened was, when we went to Union County, the program just isn't as robust. It's just not there yet. And for some of us, that just simply raises more questions on what are we getting into? Because it's just not as fully developed, and we just needed some more time. So I hope that tonight, I think tonight was needed, for sure. I mean, I know personally that I was relentless trying to get New Jersey Transit to help the homeless in the train station, because you know what makes me uncomfortable is letting them sit there without an outreach van and without services. That makes me very uncomfortable, and that should not be acceptable in Summit, New Jersey. But we've been doing it forever. How often have we been pushing New Jersey Transit to come and clean it up? We have to hold Union County accountable, we have to hold New Jersey Transit accountable, and we have to hold ourselves accountable. And Mayor, I congratulate you for really trying to do the right thing here. I think maybe we do need, for the community, maybe as the Reverend said, maybe a different leadership up at the county to make everybody feel more comfortable. But thank you for taking this leadership, and I feel badly that a lot of you have put a lot of work into this, and I think the important thing to recognize is we just have some questions, and this is a big topic, and we want to get it right.
One quick remark through you, Council President, that the working group or that our mayor assembled included the transit police, and they were present in those meetings.
Great.
I just want to clarify. So the Mayor's Forum on Diversity has been around for 20-some years. And it goes through ups and downs in terms of its usefulness and the amount of time that it gets together. Since I've been mayor, we've convened at minimum 4 times a year. Our last meeting of the whole group was in November. And I said, we typically have a couple different things we talk about, or I just open it up to the members of the forum and say, what are the topics that you want to discuss? This one in advance, I said in my email inviting everyone to come to the meeting, we have one topic, and that's the homeless situation at Summit right now. And so what can we do? And I had a sense that I knew we had lots of groups that were trying to do various things. I just didn't know how much they were communicating. I had a sense that we had silos going on, and I wanted them to work together. And then from that, was formed this working group, which was made up of representatives of the various organizations that were providing services, including Bridges, Grace, Summit Warm Hearts, the Atlantic Behavioral Health, Police. I did not, and they ended up having conversations on Zoom most Fridays, just to share what they were doing and to share the help that they could give each other. I was not part of any of those conversations, nor were any members of council. This was what these nonprofits were working on together. I helped them only in the sense that I helped them raise some funds through the GoFundMe that was set up online. Sorry, getting late, my mouth is dry. And then we learned about Dr. Callahan, so through Rich and Greg. So we had him come and talk to us, and we said, wow, this is interesting. I didn't even know this stuff existed. We've asked the county for assistance over the years, haven't gotten it. Okay, let's have him come and talk to council. That's when he came in February to talk to council. We were just trying to learn, and we heard about this continuum of care. It doesn't require us to do anything, as Mr. Von Klemperer said, easy in, easy out. We don't have all the answers. We don't even know all the questions. We don't know what the grants are that's available. We want to learn. We can go and get rolling here. And if we think it's a waste of our time, out, we're done. If we think we can help make the continuum of care in Union County more robust and more effective, then let's have a seat at the table and let's do that. As Amanda said, they're woefully behind other counties. Well, let's make them better. We were smart people, and I think you're right, Reverend Harrield. it shouldn't but just be one council person who goes, we can bring other people. Why not? It's always better to have a couple of heads rather than one. So that's what I want to say. I wanted to clarify how this whole thing got rolling. It was not through council, it was through the mayor's former university, and then the working group were the people that are the boots on the ground. Sue Fiesler, every single day involved with Summit Warm Hearts. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Council President, I just want to, I know that it's getting late, but I just want to clarify. The first thing I did when we talked about the COC after the council meeting is I went to Union County, I went to Google, and I typed in Union County Continuum of Care. And Councilwoman Hamlet's right, the link is broken. And so that was a journey of reaching out to lots of other individuals and organizations. But the fact that from the get-go, Union County doesn't have the information on their site is derelict of my duty to be able to do the right research, because you guys should expect me to be prepared, right? And so I feel like what I'm struggling with is that are we going to get, there's a lot of questions that are contradictions. Are we going to get funding? Are we not going to get funding? If we get funding, we have to, it's through HUD. And if we don't get funding, we can't be part of the HIMIS. But the HIMIS is part of the reason why we're joining, but we're not really going to get funding. And why aren't the providers going to the table? Because the providers can go to these meetings. I know. I'm just trying to tell you what my contradictions are. The other thing is I've been told the top 3 things that we're joining. We're joining because we need to go to the meeting. In order to go to the meeting, we have to be a member. That is not true. I was told that we're joining it because we need to be there in order to get into HIMIS, because that's how we help the individuals who are homeless. That's not true. I'm told that now, in order to get funding, in order to join HIMIS, you have to get funding. But I've been told we're not going to join, we're not sitting around the table just to get funding. So there's just a number of contradictions. And yes, I shared the story about Dunkin' Donuts with Councilwoman Levine to show you that we're all human and we are a paradox. We're all complicated. And it doesn't matter. My identity, number 1, is I'm a parent, I'm a wife, I'm a Christian, I'm a councilwoman, I'm a volunteer. I happen to check a certain box on this dais, but that doesn't make any other identity that I have any less. And Sue, I absolutely appreciate your story. The fact that you know every single name of every individual out there who deserves dignity and respect, thank you for what you do. And you're right, they all deserve the attention and appreciation and compassion and empathy. And you've done your due diligence. And I would just like to be able to know that there are questions that can get answered. And last point, Mayor, when someone said, well, what is the COC? Well, it's not really defined. I don't want to join something that in order to find out the answers. It is our job to find out answers so that when we join, we add value. And leaders don't just throw spaghetti on the wall. Leaders have a plan. And we can go to the meeting. I don't know what will change tomorrow. If anybody can tell me what will change tomorrow, if I vote yes and we go to the COC, this is urgent. It is 1,000% urgent. That's why every single one in this room is invited to go to the COC on May 18th. But if we join tomorrow or tonight, we vote yes, what will change tomorrow? Because we're not going to go to the meeting till the 18th. So what is going to change?
Well, I can tell you that leaders also have an intention. And please talk about what your intention is for this urgent situation and this urgent need that has been expressed. Talk about your intention.
That's my question, you actually
No,
asked.
I'm asking as Councilwoman, you're talking about.
That is my question.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
right.
what is your intention, is what I'm asking, when you talk about how leadership shows up with those three things that you said are what was the intention of this mayor and council in attacking an urgent need? And I am asking you, Councilwoman, please share what is your intention in tackling this urgent need that we have all said is urgent. What is your intention?
I'll tell you what our job is. It's to understand what we're voting on and have answers to the things we vote on. I absolutely respect that you guys have met and you have met with the appropriate stakeholders to try to solve this problem. This is not even an argument. My intention is to say, I don't have the answers that I'm seeking. When you go to Union County, the link is broken, and it is our job. And now, do I need to show up at a meeting, or I'm not going to not show up to a meeting because the link is broken? I'm not saying I'm not going to do that. I'm simply saying, like, everybody out there is going to say you have to vote tonight because otherwise you don't care about homeless. That is simply not true. That's how I feel. You should know that that's how I feel, that because I don't have the right answers tonight, I don't feel like I have to vote yes, but that doesn't mean I don't care about homeless. And I'm disappointed that I just don't have more answers. And I will go, what my intention, I'll go to the May 18th meeting. I will go with whoever wants to go. And Sue, if you will spend time with me, I will go to the train station. I will meet anybody that you want me to meet. I am human and I am open to this room because I am here temporarily to solve problems. And when I don't get answers, I will tell you that I need more answers, and however I can participate to get those answers, I will work with you. That's my intention. I just don't have the answers that I need tonight. That's all. And there's so many contradictions that I just need to share that with you so you know it's in my heart. It's not that I don't want to not solve it. It's just I'm feeling like I'm hitting a wall because I don't feel as though we've done our due diligence to make an educated vote. We can still go to the meeting on May 18th and not be a member. I will go.
So I think, this is an imperfect, the COC in Union County, from what I'm hearing, is imperfect. Granted, the website isn't good. There's information that isn't out there. But we have made, Council President Vartan reached out to Christina Topolowski and got answers very quickly, very good answers to the questions. We have made every effort to get as much information as we can. But at some point, this is letting the perfect be the enemy of the good, or the good be something like that. It's a little late. But my point is, we could study this to death, but I think what's more important is for us to act. And I think we know enough to know that this is something we can do without a downside, and we can go and we can get more information. We can find out what grants are out there. What we get at a minimum is the opportunity to sit down and meet with some of these organizations and learn about some of them. And, there are a number of organizations that, in talking with Rich and with Mike Callahan, that we didn't know existed, that we now know exist. And the opportunity to go and meet with those organizations and understand what they can bring back to Summit and, to people, and what our existing groups can sort of harness by knowing about this. And I think absolutely, Amanda's already going for Grace. I think that Summit Warm Hearts members should go as well. But there is a difference. We play a different role as a municipality than the nonprofits and and interfaith groups do. We wear different hats. We have different strengths. We are able to do different things. And and I think we should use our our relationship within the Union County system to harness these things and to make this, to help shape this organization. If it's lacking and it's less good than other counties, then we should be there to work on making it better. I just don't see how studying this more makes any difference. And I think there are always going to be people who want us to study more as a way of not doing anything. And I say we move forward, we figure out what, we go, and anyone who wants to go, that's great. And we find out more, and we work to solve a problem.
Thank you. So I'd made a comment before and just didn't feel as though it was properly addressed, and maybe so through you, Council President Vartan, before I make an assumption, would Council Member Allen or Council Member Hamlet be willing to serve as the representative for Summit? And then for all council members, any reservations if Council Member Hamlet or Allen were to serve as the Summit representative?
I think that's
So it's the responsibility of the council president to decide what committees are assigned to whom and all of the liaisons assignments.
But if
So
the
I'm-
urgency
so the
is
answer
representation.
So Eric, the answer is no. I'm going to be the person who's primarily
So that-
representing Summit.
And that,
So
that's
excuse
where,
me,
that,
everybody,
but that,
excuse me.
in fairness, that's,
So,
Yes.
excuse me, I'm going to be the person primarily representing Summit because it's the prerogative of the council president to make those decisions. I'm going to, I'm guessing, we're going to have now 75 people that from Summit that want to come with us, right? So anybody's welcome to come with us. But we've got to put somebody's name on the form as the primary person for Summit, and that's going to be me. So I hope that answers the question.
yeah, but, so respectfully, if the urgency is being at the meeting and representation from Summit, there's no reason there shouldn't be trust in any of your fellow council members. And so there's distrust from members of the community. However, if we have the right representation or feeling of right representation, you can work towards a point of compromise. And I fully agree to the point of we can over-engineer this and there are multiple outlets. And I agree with the Reverend about volunteer, and I agree with Ms. Gagnon about we should also kind of diversify our participation. The service organization should be as well. But the number one priority should not be your representation at COC. It should be a representative of council. And you all should be comfortable with any one council member serving as the single representative.
Thanks. Thank you for your comment.
Well, so I posed a question through you.
I'm answering the question.
You can't poll individual council members.
Yeah, I'm answering the question. Thank you.
So just so I'm clear, the priority is your representation on COC and not Summit's.
I'm going to be representing the city.
I'll take that in the affirmative.
As the
Thank you.
primary person as the contact for Summit. Thank you.
Sitting a long time, my legs are giving out. Rosemary Grace, Chestnut Avenue. I didn't intend to speak, and everything has been said. This is like beating a dead horse at this point. It's very late. And my voice and my throat is very dry as well. I just want to say that I trust that you, Council President Vartan, will represent this city in the best way possible. I think what's going on here is a power struggle, pure and simple. And there are people that don't seem to recognize that there are procedures here. There have been procedures when this council was all one party. Now, we're actually more democratic in that we have two parties that are represented here. But in a democracy, and on this council, the majority will prevail. But I get a very strong feeling from the undercurrent of comments I keep hearing behind me and around me, is that there is tremendous resistance to this exercise of democracy and disrespect. And it really upsets me and disappoints me tremendously. And this has been a theme, just as the Reverend from Beacon said, this has been a theme that's been happening at many meetings. And I just wish people would take a self-inventory of their behavior. Yes. Yes. And you know who you are. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Hey, Bob Pulowski, 3 Crest Acre Court. Just following up on some comments that I made on the last meeting, at the last meeting about this. You know, I said that this sounds like it might be a good and promising program, and I still think that that's the case. I'm not sure. I also said that I really think it's important for the town, the city, that everybody feel good about this. Everybody feel that they were heard. Everybody feel like they got their questions answered. You guys answered some questions tonight, you didn't answer others. You know, not everybody has the stamina to make it to a meeting like this or to make it through a meeting like this. I think it's a mistake that, that we're not taking written questions from people who couldn't come here. I think you should consider changing that. So I just think that you guys should hold off on the vote because, you know, as a lot of people have mentioned here tonight, trust is really important. And it's pretty clear that a lot of people don't trust the council's motives when it comes to this. I don't know if I'm one of them or not, but, you know, you could take a step towards rebuilding that trust, especially since you can go to the meeting. And one question I had was, since 1994, when the COC started, how many COC meetings have any council members gone to?
We didn't even know about the COC until February.
So how many meetings since February have any council members gone to?
Thank you. Okay.
Council President, thank you for letting us be heard tonight. I feel like we've had a good dialogue and that we've been able to share our concerns. I would like to see the Housing Authority join the COC. I spoke with Morris County Human Services. They said that generally the municipalities don't join their COC. It's all the providers. So, you know, I don't know in Bergen if their COC has their municipalities as part of, do we know if Bergen, because I just want to say this and then I'll ask a question. Bergen is a great model, but Bergen County's peer is Union County. And so we're a municipality. And so we're trying to say that we're going to emulate Bergen County's model in our municipality. So, okay. All right. So are there other municipalities in the COC in Bergen? But why don't, that's what I mean. Why don't we, and I mean to be respectful, I'm sorry.
It's not relevant.
It is relevant. We've compared our COC to Bergen all night long.
No, we haven't. We've said that we want to accomplish the zero, you know, the zero homelessness that Bergen has accomplished, and we would like to push Union County to adopt a program like Bergen County's, which is all under one roof, that uses the same model, and that our presence at the table is a way that we can advocate for that kind of program. That's all we've said.
If anything, sorry to interrupt both of you. Through you, I'm interrupting both of them. Is that okay? Okay, thank you.
Sure. 12, almost 12:30. Sure.
What was I even going to say? Oh,
If anything.
Bergen, right. So Bergen County, if anything, I think we've been contrasting them. I don't think we've been comparing them. And just to give some history and color as to how we became acquainted with Julia Orlando, and when it was the same people who have been advising us regarding the COC. It was actually Rich set up the, you know, we went with Rich. Sorry, Rich, I'm always talking about you, but you know, Rich was with us when we went, you know, to Hackensack. And these weren't meant to be done instead of. It wasn't, okay, guys, which one are you going to do, COC or go visit Julia Orlando and check out her model. These were done always in parallel. Joining the COC is something we could do now and start and whether it leads to change soon thereafter or not, it's something we could do now with no resistance and nothing really needed just to join. Whereas what Julia Orlando did in Bergen County took, decades and is something that we can't do right away. That's like the long-range plan that we can learn about, educate ourselves about what's possible, and have in our minds as a model. And anytime I've spoken to anyone who is an expert in this area, they've always stated that as the model, the functional zero, what they've done in Bergen County, and that always comes out first. But that's not attainable for a municipality. We would never, no one among us would have a reasonable expectation that we in Summit are going to recreate the Bergen County model. That just makes no sense. But it would be amazing if Union County had something like that. And being part of the COC, starting to make these connections, having these conversations, then that concept can all of a sudden, with the fervor of a municipality like Summit, I mean, a place like Summit is going to buy into something like that for the county, then I think that does carry a lot of weight. Because as you guys know, when it comes to that pot of tax money, who's giving them the most money? Union County. Which municipality? I mean, it's us. And who's getting the least amount of funding from the county to deal with homelessness? Summit. So I'm bringing that up. And that was my point I was going to make just after I interrupted you. But one more super quick point was this was sort of mentioned today, but as another gain of being part of the COC is that the federal government gives money to the county to use and decide how to use to try to prevent homelessness and end people's homelessness. And the people who are voting members of the COC are the ones who help have a big say in where that money goes. And if you're not there, then the people who are there at the table, they're the ones deciding where that money goes. And it's not coming to Summit. So that's another important point I wanted to make. Okay, I interrupted you and you. So
I think we're
you guys
ready.
are-
I think we're
okay,
done.
I think
sorry.
we're at a,
I think we're done.
I think we're at a point, no, Don, I think we're at a point where I think we've made a lot of the same points over and over again. So let's. Yeah, done. We gotta call it. It's almost 12:30. So let's call for a vote on this. I think it's probably best to do it as a roll call vote at this point.
Ready?
Born that way.
Ms. Allen?
Respectfully, no. Nay.
Ms. Fox? Yes. Ms. Hairston?
Yes.
Ms. Hamlet?
Respectfully, no.
Dr. Levine?
Yes.
Mr. Miniger?
Yes.
President Bartan?
Aye. Okay, that motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Let's take literally 3 minutes. Let's take 3 minutes. We've got a consent agenda. We've got a lot of stuff left to do. So I want us to take a 3-minute break. Because I promised one 3.5 hours ago.
Great.
I'm going to get
You
some
handled
water.
that very well.
Thanks, everybody, for the nice 7th inning stretch. Okay, we're now at the consent agenda portion of the evening. I'll ask anybody if there's anything they want to pull out of here that they anticipate they want to discuss. Nope. Okay, so we'll make a motion, or we'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. The consent agenda is approved. We are now at the public comments portion of the evening. We'll hear topics from comments from members of the council of the public about issues that are not topics on tonight's agenda. If you have something read, or if you're reading from something prepared, please provide a copy to the city clerk. And let's try and keep it around 3 minutes. And please have a seat when you're all done. All right.
Thank you so much. Did Aaron leave for the night?
Possibly.
Oh, really?
Michael told staff that they could leave.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He didn't tell me I could leave.
Yeah.
You're stuck with us. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
If it's a question specifically for Aaron and you just want to email it.
Oh, I've emailed it already.
Okay.
I've emailed it for a couple of weeks. And I'm disappointed the Truth and Transparency crowd left, because that's why I've waited 5 hours to get up here. And I know that you're going to say the past is in the past about 2022, but I have a couple of quick questions that I didn't get answers for in email. And Nora, on Saturday, you said you would ask Aaron, and then he would email me. So in 2022, was anything ever submitted to the Department of Transportation to close Maple Street? Was anything submitted in writing? That's a yes or no.
It's not about, you can answer, this is public comment, not a public grilling of the council.
Oh, it's not no grilling.
No, so you can just ask
So
your
is
questions.
it yes or, so yes
They're
or
not gonna
no?
answer your questions.
They're not going to answer my questions.
No,
Okay,
you're
so
gonna
nothing,
ask,
okay, perfect.
you ask your questions.
Public comment. We know now that nothing was ever submitted in April of 2022. We know that the street was closed within 4 weeks without any due diligence being done. There's 5 criteria to make a street a pedestrian mall, which this council, Mr. Miniger, Ms. Hairston, Ms. Fox, Ms. Allen, Mr. Vartan voted on. Ms. Radis, you signed the ordinance. In August, Aaron got an email from the Department of Transportation letting him know what needed to be done. Yeah, you're on the email too, Marjorie. And she left her mailing address so that he could send her not only the ordinance, but additional information. In August, nothing was sent either, not a grilling. Statement of fact, which I know is really important to the people that left tonight. Instead of this council doing the work, they left the street closed unlawfully. They knew about it, they continued to leave the street closed. You didn't do the work, you didn't do the due diligence, you lied to the community. Greg, who said you had approval from the DOT, you didn't, right? And you continue week after week after week, false narratives, misinformation, and then you blame the people in the room for asking questions. Yes, that's what you do, Nora.
I'm not blaming anybody.
And if you have the approval, why don't you just send it? Because it doesn't exist.
So I'll just start by saying, at the meeting last week, when I was speaking with Mr. Oren, who's still here, I did believe that we had written approval from the DOT, and I spoke without confirming that information, and that was my mistake, and I sincerely apologize. And I sent you the email earlier saying that as well. Yep, thank you.
May I make a comment on that?
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to take this moment to, and I spoke with, well, I'll just say it here. I think it's really important, I think Councilwoman Harrison and I spoke about it today, that when we put an ordinance in a packet going forward, that we also put the potential permit in the packet. And inside the ordinance also has a date that says, Until we get the permit, the approved permit, we won't close the road, and then that circles back to the lawyer, because I feel like what we're missing is sort of a closing the loop. So we can talk about it maybe amongst ourselves, but I think maybe we should tighten up that process a little bit, just things will get missed.
Okay. Thank you. Come on up. It's a new day. Almost.
It is.
I'm still Gil Oren, and now it's 12:35 of the next day. To finish Maple Street, I was at the meeting. I'm going to read this because I don't want any. I don't want to say something that I don't want to say. At the council meeting on April 4th, Council President Vartan stated that the closure of Maple Street in 2022 was approved by the NJ Department of Transportation prior to the closure as required by NJSA 39:4-8 and other statutes that relate, and administrative code that relates to that. After the meeting, I requested a copy of the prior approval of the closure by NJDOT, received by Summit. Yesterday, I received a letter from the City of Summit confirming that no prior approval from NJDOT was either requested or received by the city prior to or during the closure of Maple Street in 2022. The failure by the city to comply with the requirements of the New Jersey state law is a very serious omission. It rendered the closure in 2022 illegal. Today, I received an email from Council President Vartan acknowledging that he was mistaken, and he said he was sorry, which I accepted. The process of NJDOT approval is onerous, as described by Summit City Solicitor, Mr. Jacoby, many times. The statute provides that no ordinance or resolution to close a street for more than 48 hours shall be of any force and effect unless it is approved by NJDOT after a proper written application from the city, including a certified statement by the city official, one official, after a detailed study. One could ask, why bring this up now? Although obvious, the answer is that the illegal closure was wrong. It could have been exposed the city to liability for any loss that occurred. For example, if we need one, last week, a driver of a large truck lost control of a truck due to a medical condition, jumped the curb, and slammed into the Summit Diner. Fortunately, no one was injured. However, if that same driver of the large truck passed out and proceeded uncontrolled at a very high rate of speed on Maple Street from Union Place to DeForest, when Maple Street was closed, with diners in the street eating, the city's loss could be staggering due to the nature of the illegal closure. It is entirely possible that if the city had followed the law and made application to DOT to close Maple Street, it could have been denied by NJDOT on the basis that Maple Street should remain open as just one of two main arteries to and from Summit's downtown. And I've signed that. I'll leave copies. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm concerned, very concerned, as you know.
Thank you.
Any copies you need? This one? Okay. That you'll circulate. Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
I watched the last council meeting away on break with my family, and I have to tell you, the comments made about staying in your lane from council member up here was truly disgusting, because Councilwoman Hamlet is the only one up here who I applaud for fact-checking everybody. Because right now, Council President Vartan, you should be ashamed of yourself. The fact that that road was closed illegally and nobody was hurt, thankfully. I mean, we don't know if somebody was hurt. You do realize Ms. Colombias lives there. If there was a fire and that's her home next to the Elks, God forbid we couldn't get there. Okay? We came here for like over a year, not talking about not outdoor dining. We didn't want outdoor dining. It was the fact that it was a major artery. My husband came and explained the whole like heart and artery and all that stuff. It wasn't done legally. And so you're yelling at her for not staying in her lane. She's fact-checking you. In the COC, we're fact-checking you, saying, are we doing this right? Can we take a pause? We were fact-checking you for Broad Street West, and you were wrong. You were wrong. Like 500 feet or 200 feet or like, what is it? What are we doing here? And you're wrong. Like, are we playing this like 5th grade math or is this calculus? What are we doing here, guys? Nobody knows. And she's spending hours and hours and hours. She's not sleeping. Why? Because nobody can do their job. I know it's all volunteer, but like, God, it's not legal. If you don't know what you're doing, take a pause. Why are we here till 1 o'clock in the morning? None of this makes sense. Public comment. This poor woman over here has her whole front yard ripped up, and she's been waiting for how many hours to speak? Public comment should be at the beginning, and you should have known today was going to be a long meeting. We all knew it. Have her speak in the beginning. The whole year I thought was going to go great with you. We were like, oh yeah, he's going to. No, it's not. It's a nightmare. Everyone needs to rethink what's going on in this council, because guess what? It's a shit show, and it's 1 o'clock in the morning.
Thank you for your comment.
Don Nilsson, 20 Plain Street. I'm flabbergasted to hear what my fellow members have said, that this was an illegal closure. If that was me and I was in my job, I would have been fired. Yeah. So I think a public apology should be applied, the facts should be printed, and resignation or some other form of justice should be held. You can look up, taking notes. My problem with it is I'm sick to my stomach because I've been involved with this town for a long time. And this is the first time that I've ever heard something like this happen. Susan, you and I go way back. Have you ever heard this happen before? When we talk about trust, we just lost the trust. Just lost the trust. And I worked in a career where trust is everything, and you just lost mine. And probably a lot of other people's in town, and I hope that you would put a public opinion out or a letter to the editor explaining what happened, if you want to get the trust back. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Bruce Thurkoff, owner of 26 Maple Street in Summit. Ditto to what the other people said, but I have a question here for the council. Is it my understanding that before they canceled Maple Street to open up, that the SDI had actually transferred or was about to transfer around $80,000 to the town, and was the town actually going to accept it to go ahead and buy outdoor furniture for the 4 restaurateurs and also new barriers? Was that being considered? I'm asking it.
There was a discussion at an SDI board meeting about whether or not they would possibly do something like that. There was no number thrown around to my knowledge, and there was certainly no description of stuff. But it was a conversation. It was like, well, let's talk about it. We'll wait and see what the city does.
So there was no money that was moved over and then moved back?
I do not believe so.
Well, you were at the meeting then, right?
Yeah, I was.
Okay, you were at the meeting. So the SDI was thinking about purchasing furniture for 4 restaurateurs who are profiting from the extra seating capacity of the street.
Mr.
And they
Thurkoff.
want, wait a minute, and they want the other 221 people in town who are paying their surcharges to actually pay for the furniture for these. I'm just asking.
I'm answering. It
Yeah.
was not furniture for the restaurants. There was possibly other seating throughout the area, but not restaurant furniture. The restaurateurs were going to have to buy their own furniture.
Okay, all right, but there was some, also, I guess they were talking about moving, what else were they talking about purchasing, other than the barriers?
Just
So
as I
what-
said, some casual seating so that it would be usable for people that were not just going to the restaurant. But it was a very vague conversation because the city hadn't decided what to do.
I guess
So
what
nothing
I'm-
was decided. There was no
get-
money put into
I-
a fund. The SDI had a reserve fund.
I
It was
guess what
there.
I'm really confused about is that there's such a push to try to close Maple Street, which you people didn't, last year, it was illegal, what you did, and then you, you persist in pushing this, and for four restaurateurs that could go out of business tomorrow, and what is the benefit to the other 221 businesses in town of closing Maple Street, other than for the four restaurateurs? I heard a story, and I don't, this is, again, it's hearsay, all right? But that one of the, and I don't know whether they appeared here in a council meeting, but one of the restaurateurs apparently mentioned, or I don't, maybe it was another meeting at the SDI, that they had to turn away 60 or 70 people on a weekend. You know, if they had had the streets, they would have been able to accommodate these people. Well, they bought a restaurant to accommodate their business. They didn't buy a restaurant to include in that business the street dining. That has nothing to do with it. If they needed a larger place to accommodate people, go buy another building. You know, I mean, don't try to say you're not closing the streets anymore and I'm going to lose business. I'm sorry, that doesn't hold water. It doesn't hold water. And that's, this whole thing is as far as Maple Street is concerned, and it doesn't make sense. It does not make sense because it's not being fair to, the surcharge taxes are not being used to the benefit of everybody in town, just a few people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. How you been? Hi. Don Cacerio, 6 Ashwood Court. After my wife standing up, Councilman Vartan, your response is you're familiar, I take it, with the settlement and release agreement. Okay. And I've numerous emails, Mayor Radis, yourself. They have not followed that agreement one bit, to the point where we're this close to going back into court. So what's it going to take for me to get things done down there? They're using every excuse in the book. I've copied you on emails, Mayor Radis. I got one from Matt Delorier the other day. It was vague. It was BS. It was just simply, there's no dates in it. You know, if this, they broke that ground in front of my house last July. Any other contractor, the city would have been on like that to say that sidewalk's got to be fixed. Stayed open all this time. It's a mess. I'm sure you've seen the site. I know several. Like, you've been down to the site. Councilman Hamlin, Lisa. What's it going to take to get them to do what they're supposed to do so it doesn't go back into court?
I know that, and Aaron's not here, but I know that they had a meeting on Friday. And they are pushing very hard to get the contractor to do what he's supposed to do.
Red tag him.
Well, I don't know what that means.
In other words, he's obligated to do X, Y, and Z. like, you know, electrical, you're approved, plumbing, you're approved. They signed this settlement and release agreement. They're obligated to do this. If they're not, they're in violation. Stop them. Don't let them continue work. You see how fast they move their ass.
I'm sure. I'll discuss it with Aaron in the morning.
Yeah. Can I make a comment quickly?
Yeah.
Through you, Council President. I wish Aaron were here, Director Schrager, because it just really doesn't seem fair to me that you had to wait all this time to express this concern. And it's important to me that you know that you've had the chance to talk to all the right people. And I'm hopeful that you felt like the people you needed to talk to were also available to you during normal business hours too. Okay, good.
You know, it's
Good.
it's-
I'm just asking, so you wanted to come in this forum as well, which is good. But I personally am going to also talk with Aaron about this because it doesn't sound right. I don't know all the details, but from what I'm hearing, it really doesn't sound, it sounds like there's something going on.
There's a settlement release agreement signed by,
But I just, yeah.
know.
So I think,
Anyway, but-
Michael, so I think what we have here is an enforcement issue within the construction and zoning.
Right,
office,
exactly.
right?
and Habitat's looking for ways to get around
Right,
obligations
yeah.
that are in
So
that settlement
I
release
think
agreement.
we're all on the same page that we're gonna
Can I say
have.
something?
Yeah, we're gonna make sure that city staff follow up
Yeah.
on this and make sure that everything is compliant.
Okay.
That's the follow-up that's gonna happen.
I mean, I'm reading
I just wanna
emails of
make
saying
a-
it's impossible to do this, nothing's impossible.
Yeah.
It's just gonna cost them a lot of money, and it's, well, that's on the city's, I had one contractor tell me right out, it's the city's property, they can do whatever they want. And that's not the case, because there's a legal agreement signed between three parties.
Right.
So, you know, and
But,
this is the foreman that's directing the work to be done.
Right.
And he's telling me this, so he's getting his orders from a higher up, this is what they intend to do,
Right,
you know.
so, yeah.
so.
is that right, Michael?
There's a number of issues going on. Some of it, if it's construction related, those are different. That's the construction office that we need to have looked at. We have a consultant engineer that needs to go out on the site. So there's things that they need to be held accountable that you're seeing. And I need to clearly understand what those are. So does Aaron, so does our construction official. Whatever's settlement related, and I'm aware of some of the issues, we are working on it. We will correct it. This other issue is what was mentioned, and your wife Tara, who I've spoken to,
In regards to-
about the affordable housing is a totally different issue. And
So are you gonna put a house there? I'll be blunt.
look,
Does the city intend to try to put a house on that small postage stamp of, land?
all I can speak, well, I'll speak to what is. I'll speak to what is. So you want an answer, I'll speak to what is. That settlement agreement says what it is. There was a contemplation of potentially 2 more affordable housing units. That's what it says. What is actually executed on is a discussion that this council has to have and that we have to have internally with the council, and then you will get that answer soon enough. Fair enough?
Because in order to do that, we're not talking about like the project in one next door.
I understand.
Every setback law, I mean, literally the side of the house would be this far from my property. My picture window, I'd look out at the side of a house.
Actually, Don, I have pictures for you. So just so everybody knows, sorry, Marjorie, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Ms. Fox, but this has actually been really upsetting for me to go down to this neighborhood. And I'm sorry, it's going to take a few extra minutes to show my fellow council members the situation that is going on down there.
I actually did go down there. I've seen
Well,
it
then
too.
great.
And
I'm sure that maybe some-
how do you
You
proceed?
know what?
So,
Well, if you haven't, I have some
so I think what
But
was.
I just wanted to just express my sincere apologies for what's going on down there, and my heart breaks for you. And that's all I wanted to say, but I really think we need to give it our undivided attention. And Michael has been wonderful at coming down there, and I'm sure Aaron's been down there, so I think we're seeing progress. But I am very sorry, and
I mean, they've done everything. I mean, you know about, I mean, my house is in the city of Summit's name.
Yes, and that was not the city's doing.
It's not the city's doing. It's the fact that Habitat for Humanity hired a third-rate engineer who did it. Now,
Right.
I could get no answers. You know, I got answers directly from, I have a contact the county, I got right in. They said, yes, your house belongs to the city of Summit.
And
And
we
so
don't-
does the one across the street.
And we don't want that.
I understand you don't.
Right.
But they're not willing to protect it. So I had to hire an attorney. I will down sue Habitat for those legal fees.
Yep.
And then if they want to go after that, but their feeling is, oh, well, they don't care. It's just,
Well, that's not right. And
no. Neither
we
is.
want to do everything we can
Neither
to
is
help
them not
you.
completing the wall
Yep,
and
no,
putting up.
we agree 100%.
The grading being wrong.
Yep.
Water going down my drain, everything they've done, not repairing my driveway. I mean, any other contractor, if they were building $2 million condominiums there, city be on them like that, say you have to do X, Y, and Z, and they would shut them down if they didn't. But because it's Habitat, it's low-income housing, we have a quota to meet, this, that, the other thing, they give them leeway to give them leeway. They don't have the right to destroy other people's property, including the cities.
Of course not. And we've been talking about it, Michael, we've been working with the construction office and make them do what they have to do, what they should do.
Okay. I'll keep in touch then, and I will.
Absolutely.
Please.
I mean,
We're-
Mayor
we're-
Radis has been hooked in now.
Yep, we're-
Delia.
we're gonna
So I
follow.
will hook you into the emails that I've been sending Mayor Radis,
Please, we're
And-
gonna follow up, we're gonna
Okay.
follow up step 1 on the enforcement action. And
That's
step
what I
2
want, the
and
enforcement
step-
action finally.
And step 2 on the other conversation that we're gonna have.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Okay.
Here I am.
Hi.
Hi. Tara Gagliano, 6 Ashwood Court. On top of all those other issues, we have parking issues as well. And not only am I impacted by the Morris Habitat for Humanity site, the 2 new affordable units, which Greg definitely plans to put there, because I'm not stupid, which I hope that this council will take a look at my property and how badly it's impacted and my quality of life. But I'm also impacted by the park line. The park line goes right behind my house, and you can look in my bathroom windows. So now that there's a walkway in front of my house, along with 2 affordable units, the 2 affordable units and the Morris Habitat, and there's an access point for the park line there, this is now going to be parking for the park line on Ashwood Court. Also, we are going through huge issues with parking with Habitat for Humanity already parking on the court. Early in the morning, contractors, they get around it by parking their personal vehicles. There's literally no parking for any residents on the court as it sits. There needs to be some kind of ordinance passed, parking permits, or something to preserve, because right now, the court is not preserved at all. At all. So our way of life, I have 2 young children, 4 and 2 years old. This has been my 2-year-old her whole life, my 4-year-old more than half of our life that we've been dealing with this. On top of losing both my parents, dealing with the issue of the deed, the habitat. My entire life has been impacted by this. I am sick to my stomach about it, and it's bad when my 4-year-old walks outside and says, "Mommy, why are they parked there again? We can't get out of the driveway." That's a 4-year-old.
All right, well, I will speak to I'm very sorry about that. I'll speak to the chief about that in the morning.
I
Chief of
mean,
Police.
yesterday
Because
morning.
and I do believe, when I saw an email, that there was they did discuss it with Habitat, but it's enforcement, and that's our responsibility.
Habitat, the contractors have told me that Habitat is personally telling them to park their vehicles on Ashwood Court. Habitat thinks you guys are a joke, and they think we're a joke, okay? And what happened was yesterday, there they were again, and I saw a contractor walk up the clearly marked, "Do not walk." If you've been to the court, you've seen it, the walkway. He walked right past it, blatantly ignored it, and broke the caution tape and accessed the site, okay? I called the cops. My daughter was late to school because I had to deal with that, and he was parked right in back of my driveway. I mean, this is every day of my life. I should not have to deal with this.
No,
I should not have to pay out of pocket for the deed to get fixed, because Habitat is a horrible, they claim they're a do-gooder organization, and they do good based on the backs of other people. They expect us to do for them. $50,000 my parents spent, and now I'm spending more. Okay? If these two houses go through in front of my house, every one of you need to imagine living around that.
Yep, I'm going to talk to the chief in the morning. And you should not have to deal with this.
I mean, Greg, I'm shocked at you.
Council President, Tara, I just wanted to say, I'm the Park Line liaison, and along with Councilwoman Hamlet, we'll look at the parking. We certainly do not want, first of all, I was dismayed to see your yard and the, it's late, the condition it was in. So I am really sorry, and I agree with you that you cannot be looking out your front window at a wall. So, but I'll work on the parking with Councilwoman Hamlet, okay?
Thank you.
Well, and I'll also talk to the chief about the enforcement in the morning.
Okay. Thank you.
Kevin McGoey, Woodland Avenue. The honesty is, when I first got involved with this, and I'll repeat for the 1,000th time, I supported everybody up there, and Danny, the only person I never supported, I couldn't vote for you, but I didn't campaign for you, because I trusted in David Nadeau, and I trusted in you guys. And then I got involved because I saw Broad Street West, I saw Powell's presentation, I was like, this guy is selling the city down the river. Talk to David. David, you know, you must talk to these people. You have to help them. Marjorie's my good friend. Put me in contact with you. Tried to help. I expected to help you guys and be gone in like a couple weeks. And my experience was unbelievable. I was lied about. It got to the point where, you all know now, I had to start recording the conversations I had with you to protect myself. I had to record conversations to protect myself because I was being lied about in the way I was representing myself and the things that I was saying. And thank God I did. I didn't put them out on blast. I didn't put the stuff that was said, which I think would shock people if they heard the stuff that came out of your mouth. I didn't pay attention to Maple Street because I was busy with that. And people were like, oh, the Maple Street, do you care about it? I like the outdoor dining. When I look back at it now, Gil Oren was going through the same thing I was. He sat in front of you and laid out the legal issues with you closing that street when you voted to close it. When you just read that ordinance, in and of itself, it makes no sense. The 5 requirements that you need make no sense. So I didn't start looking at it until more recently, when then you have, again, you divide the community because you're like, everybody likes outdoor dining. Nobody's against outdoor dining. It was that you did something illegal, and you can't legally close it when you look at it. And Giacobbe, you said at one meeting, after several times of Greg saying, oh, well, the DOT would never have approved it if we didn't do all we did. They didn't push it back. If we didn't do it, they would have pushed back. At any point in time, did you ever ask if there was approval? Certainly when people put in DOT or OPRA requests for the DOT approval, which, by the way, when you do OPRA requests, for whatever reason, you guys never email each other. Never on the public server. But in any respect, you got this like, what, a month and a half ago, an OPRA request, and you saw we didn't have it. So everybody else knows you don't have DOT approval, except the president of city council, who goes around telling everybody, we have written approval. We have written approval. You said at that meeting, which we knew, you didn't have. I was sending you emails. People were sending you emails. Did Rosemary never tell you? Did you never have a conversation with Aaron? Like, oh, crap, you know? Like, oh, they'll go away. They'll go away. You can look at me, Greg. It's all recorded. You don't need to take notes. There is no way you didn't know. I just want you to look at me because it's, I know what you're thinking. This was the whole plan. Greg's going to apologize, say he shouldn't have said it, and that's going to be done. It's in the past. It's not in the past. You don't know if it's in the past. And this is the problem, Marjorie. You're a lawyer, right? We illegally closed the road for how long? What if somebody had a stroke during that time period on the north side or a heart attack? You don't know that that didn't happen. All they have to do is get a lawyer, and the lawyer goes, oh, that was legally closed. They do a traffic study. What is the traffic study going to say? That it doesn't impact response times? Of course not, right? We don't know that you didn't create that liability for us. But what's more important is that you just lied. You just lied to us. And yes, I know that's a horrible thing, and you say like a horrible accusation. I will document multiple lies. When I sent you emails, please take down this from the frequently asked question page. It's not true, you know it's not true, for months. Well, we're not responsible for the frequently asked question page. It's in emails, you sent it, you all were on it. You all sit by and watch people lie, and it's all due to mislead. And that's why there's this horrible, horrible trust. And I'm sorry, Greg, I don't think you're going to be able to gain our trust back by being, I'm sorry, I should have said that. You know, it's just so clear. You sat up here and you argued in favor, you argued against the interest of Summit when it came to the Fair Share Housing Settlement Agreement. You basically, as a city representative, said your interpretation of that legal agreement was something that it wasn't, and that was very much not in the favor of Summit. And it was in the favor of a very litigious organization on the other side of the settlement agreement. You can look at me, Greg. What do you think it's gonna, do you think it's gonna help Summit if we wind up back in court, which of course we will, and we don't have 50 built, because you know we won't, that they're gonna sit there and go, well, Your Honor, even their city council thought they had to build 50, even though it does not say that in the settlement agreement, and you know it does not say that. You sat up there and argued for that. I can't understand for the life of me why you did it. I don't understand what motivates you. I don't understand why you need to lie to us. It doesn't make any sense. If you're here to serve us, you wouldn't mislead us. You wouldn't lie to us. But you're very comfortable with it. Very, very comfortable. You all are. And it's not the way to do business. It's not politics. I don't know if the lapel pin or something makes you think like this is the way big time politics are, but it's not. And I don't know what your ambitions are. But I don't see how your pattern of behavior, and people can say, oh, you care about Summit, you care about Summit. There's a lot of things that you did that doesn't align with that. And I don't know how you can feel comfortable or expect anybody to trust you when you repeatedly lie. And it is lies. All last year I spent, continued to make misstatements of fact, inaccurately stated. Even after you know it, I avoided the lie because I don't want to seem combative. But it's just too much. I'm just so sick of this. And it's not changing, it's getting worse. You know, you have residents up here that do work for you because we want to work for us. I'm not, why am I here? I don't want to be dealing with this. I got involved because I was trying to help. And then I just got lied about. I saw you lying to the community. I can document it. I can document. Greg, you're good at not putting stuff on email for Oprah requests. I know that's something you tell people. But other people put stuff on? You do. And you know you do. But why? I put out an Oprah request for you and Justin, right? Because I wanted to see what went on there because you made him resign because he embellished a resume on LinkedIn.
Kevin,
Yeah, no, I
we're
know.
at about 7 minutes now.
Yeah.
So if I can ask.
I could go for 3 hours. And me compiling the stuff is going to, with documented proof. And Susan, I'm sorry. Anything that I say, I will back up, right? And I've been very, very nice throughout this entire time. But it's gotten so out of control and so bad, and you're taking advantage of the fact that the people in Summit trust you because they don't pay attention. And that is the worst part of this. Literally, you're able to get away with this because people don't pay attention, and they blindly trust you, and you make it political. I voted for all of you. I actually voted for all of you now, except the people I couldn't vote for. But I supported you. I was Team Nadeau. I did not expect this, and I know where those people are coming from because I was on the other side. When people were first talking about the gas power leaf blowers, I was texting David Nadeau going, you know, don't worry about it, whatever, thank you, sorry you have to put up with this. I didn't realize that this is what people were dealing with. And it's awful. And I don't know how you live with yourself.
Thank you for your comment. Okay.
Dennis?
I have listened intently to these comments by everybody, and I would just ask that the last speaker has a litany of allegations, maybe, factual information that he has used to
address the council president, and that is within all of our rights as citizens to do. However, I would caution that in the attempt to provide services for a community as a politician, there are situations that occur that we may not as residents be aware of. And Mr. Jacoby would probably agree that there's always a need to show intent to do something. And I have, I know all of you very well, with the exception of maybe a few whom I've gotten to know, but not as well as those who I've known for a long time. But I'm standing not to speak in behalf of anybody, but I'm standing to just say that the accusations that I've heard levied against members of City Council, including the President, all of us have transgressed or fallen short in many ways. We will continue to, because we are imperfect beings. But I think all of you have the interests of Summit at heart. And if you don't, then I stand corrected, but I think all of you do. But if any one of your intentions was to do something harmful, that is different from you making a mistake in doing something. I have made mistakes, and I'm a master politician. How do I know I'm a master politician? Because I'm married to a woman. I became a master politician when I said I do to her. And any of you who are married, you too are master politicians, because it involves forgiveness, it involves listening, it involves giving people a second chance, it involves putting yourself in the place of those persons and saying, what would I do if I were in your shoes? And we don't know. So I would just say that I do not believe that the council president or any of your intention, whether you're accusing him or her of lying, I do not think that he intended to lie. I did not say he did not lie. I said I don't think his intention was to lie, which is different. Intent to deceive and intent to do any injustice or whatever is different from, you just blatantly doing it. So once a person apologizes, and I'm respectful of Gil Oren's statement that he accepted his apology. I think that's commendable, because he apologized. He apologized, and I think what else can you do? Do you want to, I don't know what the other remedy is, but he apologized, and I think if you apologize, you are admitting to, you are acknowledging that you're willing to try and the next time get it right. That's what is known as second and third and fourth chances. So I'm just troubled by some of the things that I'm hearing. I'm troubled by some of the things that, to me, are petty. Some of the things that do not need to be addressed at this council. So I would encourage the public, once you elect a public official, know that you are not going to always agree with whoever you elect. You elect them based upon believing that they're going to represent you in the best manner that they can, and when they don't throw them, as the young people say, don't kick them to the curb, but just give them an opportunity to inform you as to why they did what they did, and if they apologize, just as you would apologize, and want them to accept your apology, to do that. So I hope that those of you who have said what you said
will, accept any of the council person's apologies and then move on, because trust can be rebuilt, but it has to start with two people working together. And Mr. Jacoby, I have a question for you, sir.
I'll try my best.
I very seldom ask.
So I'm a wee bit tired.
I very seldom, well, this is the first time I think, no, the second time I've asked the council a question. Is it permissible, and I do not know, maybe it is, maybe it's not, but in meetings of this length, in which there's being public comments, common council comments, is it permissible for any member of the public to stand and say a point of personal privilege or a point of order and call for a vote?
No.
So that
It's
means
the-
that can only happen
From the
up here.
dais. Yep.
Because having asked that question, I was prepared about 3 hours ago to call for a vote.
Well, if you had told me, I would have had a different ruling at that time. Just saying.
Thank you.
I'll be really brief, because I'm never awake this late, ever. Susan Bowen, Waldron Avenue. I'm really respect what you guys do, because this isn't easy. And you're not getting paid to do this. And I know you're doing your best, I really do. The through point that I'm seeing, just since I've been, as I described it to my friends, a blue-haired old lady in white tennis shoes and coming to these meetings, the through point on the Maple Street or the COC or the Broad Street West, you know what it is? It's due diligence. I know, Marjorie, you're an attorney. Jamie, you're a physician. You had to learn how to do a differential diagnosis, and you didn't know before. And you had to know, I'm sure you had to know, that you needed to know the other side's argument better than your own in order to feel prepared. And I think what's needed here is more fulsome due diligence and proof thereof, and possibly it's a sheet of paper. This is what we've looked at. Or in the case of the permit, what's the date of the permit? Where's the copy of the permit? So much of this stuff, which really, really comes down to, on this side of the table, are people who are lucky enough to live in Summit, New Jersey. And that probably means that we're good at what we do, right? We've become experts in what we do. And unfortunately, I think you guys have an awful lot of experts in the stands, right? So if there are more fulsome due diligence, if something is brought, I can't even think of the word and I'm tired. If something's brought to a vote, we should be able to think, yup, Susan Hairston saw the things, it was her things, she was in charge of shepherding the due diligence, and here's the chart. Here's the permit. And then we don't have to think about it. And then there's going to be plenty of things we disagree about. But that's fine. That's fun. It's interesting. I actually don't really like arguing, but there are people who think it's fun. But the through point that I want you to hear from me, and I think maybe by extension, many of the citizens of Summit, is do your work. Do the due diligence. Don't come unprepared, because I've done it. I was just telling Gil Oren when I started at the Bank of New York a long, long time ago. I had a good education. I was a CFA. I knew everything, right? It took till I was like 32 before I realized, oh, I don't know anything. I don't know anything. I've got to work. I've got to do, and my job, of course, was doing this due diligence, which is boring. I get it. It's boring, unless you're like me and you like that sort of thing. But if we knew that we didn't have to do things like look for permits, how much more fulsome of discussion would we have? Because we would all be dealing with the same facts. And we might disagree. That's okay. People disagree all the time. But I think what I'm hearing in the through point with all three of these particular issues, nobody was in charge of the due diligence. Nobody said, I'm in charge, this is my issue, ask me anything, I got it. And I support it, and here's why. And I know more than the people who are going to disagree with me about the issue. And I know what they're going to say, and I'm ready. I think maybe that's where people are describing this lack of trust, or what I'm hearing from this side is partisanship or whatever. I think that's at the crux of it, is because nobody's saying, I did the research, I'm ready to go. And if I'm not ready to go this week, I'll be ready to go in 2 weeks. But I'm not going to say anything that I don't know the answer to. If I don't know, that's another great thing about being like 32, 35, maybe having a couple kids. You realize you can say, I don't know, but I'll find out. And I think that's what's missing here. And I sit and I don't often speak. That's what's missing. You guys are great. You wouldn't be elected if you weren't caring and smart and detail-oriented and willing to walk around Summit on a Saturday afternoon in July and knock on doors. Use that same energy to be prepared with the correct due diligence, because then this won't happen, or it'll happen less, because I don't think anybody likes this. And now I have to go to bed. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council President, I don't think anyone's going to ask any more questions.
Yes.
I voted to close Maple Street, and I voted for outdoor dining. Did DOT approve that road closure?
So I think where we are here in this conversation about Maple Street, right, is that what I did not know was that we did not have something in writing from them. What took place was conversations between DOT and city staff, okay? And that is where there was a miscommunication. Certainly for me, I think we had the same information, you and I, when we voted in favor of it. And we voted in favor of it because we thought it was the right thing to do for our city. And I am being completely honest with you when I say I did not know that until this week, that we didn't have that. So in writing. So I don't want to be kicking this around here. This was before I was council president. I'm just telling you, for me, that when at the time I thought, I looked at the ordinance, like you looked at the ordinance and the supporting documentation that we had a desire to close Maple Street because we thought it was the right thing to do for our city, and we voted for it.
So through you, Council President, Mr. Jacoby, if anything had happened on Maple Street, would we, and it was not approved by DOT, would we be covered under a GIF?
Do I think you'd be covered under your GIF? Yes, I do.
Insurance.
I think you would be covered under your GIF. The only time they don't cover, frankly, I've never seen a GIF not cover. I think that if there was, if the council voted and you had an understanding that you were voting on something that you had approval for and you voted in good faith, they'd cover that. You're still acting within the scope of your thing. Where the GIFs get touchy is like if, for example, you're the alleged sexual harasser in a sexual harassment lawsuit, then they'll try to get you different coverage and they'll do a disclaimer where they can withdraw coverage. But I've never seen any of the joint insurance funds do that either.
Is there a limit of liability in the policy?
Not that I'm aware of.
Is the GIF primary?
No. The GIF is so the way it works in New Jersey, there's a joint insurance fund. I think you guys are suburban Essex. There's different GIFs. I don't know what GIF they're in. And then above the GIF, there's a thing called the Municipal Excess Liability Carrier that sits above it. And then above that, they have other excess piles. They have policies that go up many, many millions of dollars.
Is this personal liability for them, or is it for the city?
Well, I'm not gonna keep taking questions.
So, yeah, I didn't want to get off track,
So,
because.
the JIF is a joint insurance fund, and it's a group of municipalities that get together. There's different ones. There's ones in Bergen, there's ones in Morris, I think you guys are called Suburban, I think you're part of Suburban Essex, right? I think that's what it's called. But there's different towns. It's not like based on like if you're in Essex County or Union County, and they pull it together. And then on top of the joint insurance fund, since the municipal excess liability carrier, and they have extra excess layers above it. So I've never seen the joint insurance fund deny coverage, unless there's like a blown statute of limitations or something like that. But in a case like this, if a governing body votes, you guys are voting, you're elected, you vote. I mean, do people make mistakes when they vote? That happens often. There's lawsuits. People, for example, a clerk doesn't produce Oprah documents. There's a lawsuit. The JIF covers it. Doesn't mean that, Rosie purposely withheld something. There's a lawsuit and there's a shift of fees. That's what the JIF is there for. So I think you would absolutely be covered.
Okay, so I just want to say, because I voted on it, I apologize to our community for making that error. I'm embarrassed. I'm personally embarrassed. I didn't do my due diligence. And because I assume, which I shouldn't do, that committees did the right work. So I am sorry. And this is why I ask questions tonight. This is why I ask questions, and I should ask questions a lot more. So people should know that I apologize. We put our city, there is a risk. And when we vote and we deliberate, that's why we do this. And we scrutinize and we scrutinize. And that's why sometimes, that's why, right? Like, we can't just jump in and say, and we won't even get into tonight, like, who knew what when. So, yeah, if someone knew specifically that we needed to put paperwork in and they didn't do that and someone turned I don't know what that conversation looked like, but if that happened, it's wrong. It's wrong, and I should be able to say that because I did something wrong. I didn't do enough of the work, and I take responsibility for that. So I won't stop asking questions. Okay, so I needed to say that.
I really, through you, Council President, would like us to talk about the role and responsibility and the relationship between governing and staff and the structure of our government, which is an administrator, a city council president, a mayor, and council, and a whole host of staff, and guidance that is provided by our Constitution, by our organizing documents. And that precarious, very fragile, but absolutely statutorily guided responsibility between governance, the governing body, and staff, and how that's carried out. Can you talk about that? Because the thing that I take as my model, coming from a more corporate structure, that how you hold staff accountable is different than doing the work and preventing the staff from being able to do their work. And that is a fine line, and it's why you hire who you hire and you hold them accountable. But I know that there is a whole lot of law behind it, and I never want to see a council that is 100% lawyers. Sorry, I love you lawyers, but it is not.
Lawyers can't do anything. That's why we went to law school.
So please talk about that aspect.
I think that what people have to understand is elected officials, there's no prerequisite to be an elected official. You could be a nuclear physicist, or you could be, an 18-year-old kid who just graduated high school. And so the cities or municipalities, this city, municipalities, towns, et cetera, you hire an expert, your administrator, and you hire a CFO who's a financial expert, and then they have various staff who are experts in the fields that run the day-to-day operations of those different areas. So, for example, very few people in this room know the intricacies of police work. That's why you have a chief of police and the different layers. Same thing with the fire department. You have, so I think that the governing body, an elected body, has to be able to, you hire the different experts in the different areas. So when, for example, Michael Rogers is giving his presentation tonight on the budget, he's an expert working with Tammy on putting together a budget, municipal finance, and he's explaining it to you. So I think that you guys don't get in, you don't run the city. You don't do day-to-day operations. You have committees and you have oversight. I think the governing body's job is to make sure that the city is well-run. You don't run the day-to-day operations. It's impossible for you as volunteers in this form of government. And the only forms of government, there are certain towns where you have mayors who are full-time mayors, like Newark, Jersey City, some of the huge municipalities. But that mayor, he or she, even though they're full-time, they don't run everything. The governor doesn't run everything. They have experts in all the different departments that actually do the running, and they rely on those people. And do people make mistakes? They do. I think the Reverend said it perfectly. People make mistakes. But you guys have the right to rely on it, and I think that with regard to Councilwoman Allen's comment, if you vote and you relied on it with the understanding that things were done, you're allowed to do that. You're covered.
Thank you.
Bob Pulaski, 3 Crestacre Court. Stop blaming Aaron Schrager for all your shortcomings.
Why not?
Okay? He's a good guy. He does his best. He tries to make you guys happy. All right?
Absolutely nobody's doing that.
I don't think any of us blamed him.
Absolutely nobody's doing that.
No one has said a word.
Nope.
We all know what an illusion is, right? Illusion. Anyway, you guys passed an ordinance where you said, you found all kinds of things to be true. Marjorie, you said, just because we don't see it doesn't mean we don't go through processes, okay? You guys, you didn't find any of those things. You passed an ordinance anyway, okay? You passed an ordinance, right? Are you allowed to implement an ordinance before you get all the legal approvals that are required? Does DOT give verbal approval? Come on. You guys pivoted to verbal approval now. Are you kidding? You didn't do what you were supposed to do. Admit it. Don't say, I'm sorry I misspoke. Say, I'm sorry we didn't do jack you know what. There's got to be accountability, guys.
Thank you.
Chief's already telling me, oh no. Tony Melchion of 42 Maple Street. I think 2 records tonight. One will be I'm not going to talk long. The other one will be that this is probably the longest council meeting on record.
No.
I don't even think so.
Sorry.
I don't even
I'm not
think so.
speaking to the mic?
No.
No? Okay.
Not the longest.
Well, sorry about that.
Good to know the hair is still on point, though.
I know, what can I
Yeah.
say? So all I want to say is, I told you so. I told you this was all illegal. I told you in November. I told you in past February. And I was just, oh, it's Tony because he has a business on Maple Street. Oh, everybody hates Tony. Okay? I told you so. All due respect, Councilwoman Levine, and I have it on my phone, that you said to me at the last 2 or 3 council meetings, and you spoke to me and said, Tony, we spoke this morning, and I will tell you that we will never do anything illegal and such. Councilwoman Margie Fox, you had said the same thing in a longer version. I have it, but I don't want to play.
I'm not denying that. We
Okay.
don't, I am, I need to get more information because what I learned is what I learned last week. So You know, I need to find out more. I'm not admitting that we did anything illegal at, you know,
We had many legal experts here, Gil Orrin,
well, we
Bud
also have a
Pawlowski.
lawyer who
Yes,
would
we
not
did.
let us do
Who-
anything that was illegal.
Of course he is, because he's Mr. Arduous, and he told you many times how difficult this was, and how we had to do this and that, and about Leonia, which is being sued by the Department of Transportation. I think I know my next move. Have a good night.
Thank you. All right. I think that's it for public comments. So we're going to go ahead and close that section of the meeting. And we're moving on to council member comments and new business. Anybody? Nope. Okay, all right. I think we're at the point where we can move to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.